Good evening and welcome to the June 10th, 2024 regular board meeting of the Roswell Independent School District. I'm now going to call this meeting to order. And can I get a roll call?
Jack Cheney,
Yes?
Hilda Sanchez,
Here.
Brian French, James Edwards,
Here.
Jared Ashby,
I'm getting ready to call him in.
And Mr. President, members of the board, if I may, Mr. French did text me today and asked that when we did action items, if we could call him as well at that time.
That's more like the years. Yeah.
Hey, Jack.
Good evening, Jared. We're getting ready to
Good
start.
evening.
Yep, we're already started here.
have him state his name, please.
Okay, sounds good.
Give us your name. State your name, please.
Oh, Jared Ashby.
There we go.
There we go. All right. Now we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the New Mexico flag. Me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendships among united cultures. All right. Moving on, are there any modifications to the agenda?
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board, we have one modification under recognitions. We are going to have Miss Cynthia Sanchez, our new principal of Pecos Elementary School, come back in July. So if we could take that off, please.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
With
Second.
flexibility?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Edwards, second made by Ms. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. Do we have any recognitions for tonight?
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, we have two very special recognitions and a group that I want to recognize as well. But at first, I'm going to turn the first recognition over to Mr. Bewley, and we're going to recognize a fourth place state Spanish Spelling Bee champion. So, Mr. Bewley, take it away, sir.
Voy a decir en español because this spelling bee was in Spanish. Tenemos un representante de la escuela Mountain View Middle School. Come on up. Judith Carreño es en el grado octavo. Y disculpe mi pobre español, por favor. ¿Y su mamá, si quiere pasar? ¿O van a tomar fotos? Ok, entonces usted puede tomar las fotos. Usted, si quiere pasar para atrás para tener un, how do you say an angle? Un ángulo más bueno. Judith sacó cuarto lugar en el concurso ortografía estatal. Did I say that right? Okay. Ortografía en el concurso estatal. I believe that's the highest, except we had a third place many years ago, but she did very well. She's an eighth grader, so this is her last year for competition. But she did very well. We're very proud of her. Okay, tenemos de mucho orgullo por su how would I say, your accomplishments.
Éxitos. Can I?
Por su éxito.
Oh, I just want to say
Did you want to ask her a question?
to Judith,
Okay.
your impressive achievement at the state Spanish Spelling Bee. I think it's a testament to your hard work, your dedication, and your passion for the language, the Spanish language. And I want you to keep trying, and we look forward to seeing your growth and your accomplishments. Y felicidades.
Y no deja su lenguaje español,
Sí.
¿ok?
Felicidades y tu impresionante logro en el concurso de deletreo es un testimonio de tu trabajo y tu dedicación y pasión, especialmente por el idioma español. Y sigue brillando y esperemos ver muchos logros y éxitos. Y gracias.
Mucho más éxito en su futuro. Okay. Thank you very much. Ma, what do you
Okay.
think?
Oh, okay. Wonderful. Okay.
Okay. Well,
I'm sure we'll be hearing from her.
come on up here. Don't you cancel that one? I think we have a certificate too. Would you come on over here?
All right. Up next, Mr. President, members of the board, we have another Golden Apple Award recipient. We just found out about it kind of late and wanted to get him and his family here. So at this time, I would ask Matthew Campos and Dr. Cottrell if you could please come back up. Never gets old recognizing this. So Dr. Cottrell, if you want to speak just a second, and I want to add something from our induction the other day that I got to go to.
Absolutely. President Cheney, members of the board, Superintendent Luck. This is our second Golden Apple Award winner for this year. To kind of recap, the Golden Apple Award is for aspiring teachers. It's a mentorship program. It also helps them develop a kind of a network of other folks that are going into education. They have summer chances to go and do training from other teachers as they go through the programs at whatever college that they're going through. And they also have the opportunity to have assistance at job placement and things like that. So it's a 4.5, 5-year program that we feel like is a great deal. And this is probably our 6th student that we've had from Goddard High School who wants to go into education, that's working their way through our teacher pathway. And we really hope to have the opportunity to have them come back and work for us. You know, developing our own, growing our own is really a great deal. And any chance we have a chance to get a guy into education and males, I think is a great deal. And we're super happy to have Matthew with us.
Thank you. Go ahead. I just want to say congratulations, Matthew, on receiving this Golden Award. I know your commitment to academic excellence and your desire to become an educator are truly inspiring to a lot of us. And your passion for teaching and making a positive impact on the future of generations is remarkable. As you continue this path, I just want you to remember that teaching is not just a passion, but it's also a calling. And you have the potential to make a lasting impact on the lives of countless students. And I have no doubt that you will excel in this field and make a positive difference in the world of education. I think it's clear to the whole family that teaching runs in your family. Your grandparents, amazing educators in our district, Moises Campos and Florence. You had an aunt, Frances, at Goddard in math for many years, and your uncle Ruben. And of course, you have cousins all over that have made an impact in the field, and it's in your blood, okay? And you will be continuing, I think you're gonna be continuing this family legacy. Plus, it's a rewarding career that it's gonna allow you to make a difference in the students' lives. And I think you'll be amazing at it. And I hope that I'm around to see you to come back to our district as a teacher. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Did you want to say anything? Thank you, sir. So he's making his rounds,
Thank you so
2
much.
Sundays
You
ago,
make
we
us
were
all
in
so
Albuquerque for their official awards presentation. And it was so neat to see Matthew up there, to see the other kiddos up there. And they did their deal, they got their awards, and then they took photos of them in their colleges. and they got to Matthews, and he standing there kind of by himself, and neat though. I mean, it was the vibe had already kicked in, and you could feel it amongst the kids, and you could feel it amongst in the room. And I probably should quit referring to them as kids because they're young adults and future teachers, and you could start to see that shift. And I want to wish you good luck next week as you start your first set of training. I know the first training in the state, I believe, this might be the second, but the Albuquerque training is this week. So I want to wish you good luck, and you know, like Dr. Cottrell said, you know, we look forward to getting you back. So take your time, but hurry up and get back. That concludes our, one more recognition real quick. Mr. President, members of the board, I would like to, excuse me, acknowledge and honor our REA team that's here with us tonight. So, Ms. Ponce, if you'd like to come up and introduce, and then we will have an action item later on down the road, but I wanted to give you all an opportunity to come up and be recognized. And no, Ms. Dawson, you can't move that. There you go.
I'm Denise Dawson. I represent members throughout the district. I'm no longer president, just.
I'm Delphina Ponce. I'm the REA president. I took over Denise, but she's still with me, though. We're still partners in crime. Anyway, go ahead, Denise. Go. Whatever you want to say. Go.
What would you like me to say?
That we are here to.
Well, I don't know what y'all would like to say, but I just want to say how nice it was this time. Not that all times haven't been wonderful to work with REA, but the earlier work this year than we've done in the past, and the ability that we have to set forth the salary schedule so that as people leave for the school year, they know what they're going to make. They can make their plans. They can plan in the summer if they needed to do something extra. They can go look for something maybe a little bit nicer because they know they've got a little bit more kind of coming their way. And then the other part to it is selfish on my part because it helps out our business department so much and payroll to know what everything is before we ever start. And we're not having to go backwards and say, okay, from here forward, this is your check. But remember next year, it's going to be less because we had to start paying you in October. I cannot say thank you enough. And I want to give another special thanks to the board. This isn't pandering, but this is the result of the board giving me a charge that says, get this done. And I want to thank y'all and the members of your organization for ratifying it and for working with the district. And again, just thank you.
And we really did work with the district, and Mike has been amazing
Yes.
explaining things to us because Delphina and I are not numbers people. We don't like numbers. So he had to explain some things, and we're questioning him, and he's so patient with us, And of course, Maria, as always, was wonderful. And I have to say, having an attorney who is not out to get you on the other side is really a nice change of pace.
Well,
Yes.
a really good team effort got
Yes.
this done, and we're super early, but the irony to it is we were probably about a month, actually later than where we could have been bringing this to the board. But thank you very much, and like I said, when we get to our action item, we're actually going to move the action item up to the top of that list here in just a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you for all the work. Thank you. We worked hard. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mireya, and all.
Thank you.
We did a lot of work. I appreciate it. Thank you guys did.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
I also want to remind you that the entire collective bargaining agreement is up for grabs this next year. So we need to start working on it immediately.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
We'll now move on to inquiries and general comments. Ms. Whitcamp, has anyone requested to speak? All right, moving on. Next, we're going to have our informational items.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, tonight we're going to start off with kind of an overview and then move into probably some question and answer on our CYFD mandatory reporting process. Wanted to just kind of give a little bit of a brief overview as we've shifted from, through the pandemic. This is one of the things that we have really tried to work on. We also know that we're probably going to have an uptick with our referrals as well. But as far as the legality of it, you know, our RISD policy J6250 says, you know, basically gives us the mandatory reporting guidelines that we must follow by. And as school district employees, we are obligated to report any type of detection of child abuse, neglect, ethical misconduct, personal responsibility, sexual abuse, and assault, substance abuse as well. And then we actually have some processes that we're working through, and I'm going to get a lot of help through this with Ms. Cole as far as the way we do things, the way we make sure that things are followed through on. It's not a perfect process, and it's one that we have to continue to work on to make sure that we get better. And when I say by getting better, this is a tough one, because if I don't want to say guess wrong when it comes to this, but if we choose wrong, that could have consequences that are not, well, they're not good, period. They're not good. With that, we're constantly looking to train, to put in place procedures, and or to follow, you know, our state guidelines and our statutory requirements. We'll turn it over to Ms. Cole, and then we're going to probably tag team this one for a while. So go ahead.
Okay, yes, Superintendent Luck, President Cheney, members of the board. Just so a little bit of history, the past few years, as Superintendent stated, during the pandemic, we started recognizing things that were happening on Zoom, and we knew that, you know, with students not being in school, we weren't able to keep an eye out for things like we normally would have been. And so when we started returning to in-person learning, we were contacted by CYFD and Chaves County CASA, and we put together a plan to train all of our staff throughout the district. I believe that was back in 2021. And so it was a partnership between those two agencies and us, and school principals scheduled times for their staff to receive that mandatory training. And so it was just, you know, these are the things that you look for. This is how you make the report, and just kind of revisiting the requirements for it. You know, it's our license. If we know or suspect that there's some kind of abuse or neglect happening, and we don't report it, then our license is on the line. And of course, we worry about our students, and we want the very best for them. So we went through all of that training. We also implemented CSTAG threat assessment platform in Navigate. So what LJ does in crisis response with Navigate is different than CSTAG. CSTAG is an evidence-based protocol. So when there's a threat of harm to others, our school counselors and social workers and administrators are trained to go in and perform that assessment, and they determine whether or not it's a substantive threat or not substantive, and then make decisions based on that. The Columbia is the suicide prevention assessment. And so again, same staff trained in that, and when there's a threat of self-harm, we go through that. When there's a substantive threat, there is a call made to one of our team, Cynthia, Megan, myself, and then we walk through that assessment to determine next steps. So sometimes it could be a transport to Sunrise, it could be bringing in law enforcement. It just depends on what that particular situation is. We did some additional training this spring in CSTAG and Columbia, and we will do more in the fall because we want to onboard our new administrators or those people that, new counselors that haven't had the opportunity for the training. So that will just be an ongoing process to ensure that we have the people trained in those protocols. Is there anything else, Superintendent? So in suicide, we want to talk just a little bit more about that. So we pulled a team together, a multidisciplinary team of elementary and secondary counselors and social workers together, and they reviewed policies from other school districts and even other agencies, and as far as the protocols in place. And so they've developed a draft of what they would like to recommend to Superintendent Luck. And then if he wants to recommend that for policy. Of course, that's up to him, but they put quite a bit of time into it, and again, it was a multidisciplinary team. And so we plan to present that in July.
Right. And Mr. President, members of the board, one of the things we did not want to do is rush. And so Ms. Cole and her team have been working on that. What I found is when they're ready to bring things to us, then it's ready to be vetted. I did have the request for a little bit of information on our mandatory reporting, and it did actually dovetail right in to the work that they were doing. But we do feel like we'll be ready in July to bring that forward back to the board so that we can start hopefully implementing the new processes that, we found. I mean, times change, and we're very much aware of that. So,
Superintendent, I would like
please,
to add
yes,
one more
ma'am.
thing, sorry. So I just want to mention human trafficking. So we're not immune to it in this community. We know that it's out there. We have students who are victims of it that our counselors and social workers are working with. There was a big summit that took place earlier in the spring that was put on by 100% Chaves County. It was an informational summit to help us learn about the look-fors in human trafficking, but we see more and more of that. I have a trainer that comes in from Texas, and she talks about the signs along I-35 that say, watch for human trafficking. So, it's not something we want to talk about, but we have to know that it's there, and we have to be aware of it. So.
We stand for questions.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions. Whenever a safety plan is established, what's the protocol for that?
It depends on the situation.
Okay,
So,
I'm just gonna go ahead and put my business out there. I don't mind doing it. I have a safety plan. My nephew went to a website at a school. I'm not gonna say the school since I'm not allowed to, but he went to a website on self-harm. I get a phone call from the school district talking about, hey, you need to come pick up your nephew, talk to he went to a suicide site. It's not the first time that it's happened it's the first time with him. The first time it happened, the protocol was totally different. My niece went to a website on suicide, and I get a phone call from the social worker. So I need to have all of these inconsistencies straightened out. My niece goes to a website, I get a phone call from a social worker. And then I talk to my niece. I'm QPR certified, I'm ACES certified, I'm resiliency certified through the military. QPR, does anybody know what that stands for? Deals with suicide.
it's a question.
I can do, I'm a trainer, I'm a certified trainer. I'm ACES certified through the military. I'm a trainer. Two different scenarios. My niece went to the website, looked up suicide. Of course, the computer, I guess, flags it. Am I correct? I see you shaking your head. It flags it. So the first thing I do is I go through the questionnaire. I have my cards that I use. I keep them on me. Uncle, I was doing a report at school on suicide. So it flagged him. No problem. This next one, I get a phone call from a school. Hey, your nephew went to a website and it got flagged. I said, okay, I'll go through the safety plan with you if you want me to. If you want me to go through it, I'll make copies for you. It said he went to a website. My nephew's 11 years old. Does he have low self-esteem? Oh, yes, he does. If you know the situation on how I got these kids, you'll understand. Their mom was murdered 3 years ago. I'm the only one that stepped up to take over for my nieces and nephews. They've been through enough. I went through the safety plan. Went and picked up my nephew. This was on a Friday at 3 o'clock. Guess what? There's no psychiatrist open. There's no mental health open at 3 o'clock. Picked him up. Went and did my questionnaire, checked on him. Oh, well, he was talking about self-harm. So I questioned it, went through the procedures. Do you feel like hurting yourself? Do you feel like hurting others? Do you feel like hurting your uncle? Do you feel like hurting your brother, your sister? It was all no. Okay. The following Monday, I set him up to go see a psychiatrist. Can't get him in until Wednesday. But he's okay. He's okay. So I got him set up for an appointment on Wednesday, get a phone call from CYFD. Hey, we've got to report that you've been emotionally and socially abusing your nephew. What? I said, look, lady, this is from CYFD. I've got a safety plan. Oh, I don't know. I don't care what you got. Oh, I lost it then. I lost it. And I was real disappointed because on these safety plans, and I used to work at CYFD, I know the self-reporting laws, but it sounds like it was a hit on my character. It was a hit on my nephew. Okay, I'm not even halfway through with the story, but I'm gonna get to it. Did it tick me off? Oh yeah, it ticked me off. Because to me, it sounded like it was a hit on my integrity and my honesty, because I've taken ownership of these kids. And these are my kids. And when you come at me, you're coming for some trouble, some real trouble. I'm just gonna put it out there. I wasn't real happy. And I'm like, wow, lady, I'll be down there to talk to you. Oh, I don't care if you got a safety plan. In the safety plan, it says to seek treatment and stuff. There's nothing on the safety plan that says, hey, this is self-reporting. I can make up anything. I can go report anybody. The thing that really got me is I had already set my nephew up to go see a psych. I made a trip right over. I got a phone call, like I said. Went straight to CYFD. I spoke to the supervisor. They're reading the report. They read the report out to me. They used the fact that I was in the military, and because I made a comment of, oh, don't give him a rope. You got to understand different people's culture and how people communicate. I'm not going to give my nephew a rope. I might be black, but I'm not dumb. And it really ticked me off because I know better. If anybody in here knows me and how I've dealt with kids, I'm going to be the first one to put my life out there for a kid. And it ticked me off. So, made a trip down there. She read the report. She's like, wow, they're using your military against you? Boom, boom, boom. I talked to a supervisor. It didn't rise to that level. It hadn't risen to that level. But because I made one comment and they used some other comments. Oh, I told the coach one day, hey, coach, my nephew could use running because he needs to drop a little bit of weight. That's what the doctor told me from BCA. I didn't know I had to bring in doctor's notes saying, hey, look, people need to lose weight. But I took it as an attack on me and my nieces and nephews. And I take that stuff really serious because they don't know what my nieces and nephews have been through. I know what they've been through. The other thing that really got me, they let somebody that signed this little paper go visit with my nephew. Hey, am I mad? No. I want there to be some consistency in how we report. They had some lady, she left a little piece of paper. All I know is her name's Melissa. There's no business card on here that says CYFD. And when I talked to the people at CYFD, I made some phone calls because I'm not one to sit back. Made a phone call to one of my legislators, to their constituent office. CYFD calls me back. I'm supposed to be notified when they pull my kids to talk to them. I wasn't even notified. 24 hours they're supposed to notify me. I didn't get notified. The only way I found out is my nephew gets in the car and he says, Uncle, well, there was a lady here talking to me and she was asking me if you made fun of me and talked about my weight. She brought up his weight, not me. So maybe I should go file a child abuse and neglect on her because that really bugged my nephew. My nephew, I put him in football. He didn't want to play football, so guess what? He plays the violin. I give my nieces and nephews the choices that they have to make. They have to make their own choices. Because I'm not going to be here forever. But it ticks me off, and what I asked for this to be on the agenda so that I could get clarification, because I've heard that in some schools, if they see the abuse, I ask this question. I'm not going to put people out I'm not going to put them on the chopping block. I asked some people about this. I said, hey, what do you do when you suspect child abuse or neglect? Oh, I got to let the principal know. What? So that's what's going on in our district. I'm going to put it out there. That's what's going on. There's no consistency. What is the policy and there's nothing on here that says, hey, look, this is subject to being turned in. Ain't never whooped a kid. Don't call him out of his name. Don't cuss him out of his name. And this is what, but I feel it was a hit job on my integrity and my family. And so that's why I wanted this put on the agenda. And I'm sorry you had to give the explanation, but I'd like to have somebody, one of the other principals, because we got plenty of them in here. What is the policy? Does your staff have to go tell you before you report it to a CYFD? Because if that's the case, you're breaking the law. I used to work at CYFD. You have a duty to call in, and you can call in anonymously. But you don't wait from a Friday to a Tuesday, and then the caseworker calls me. Then I had CYFD come out to my house on Saturday. No problem. Hey, I'm open. Walk through the house, talk to him. I'm clear. But I'm waiting on the report so I can bring the report so people know that I'm not making up this stuff. And it's a shame that I have to bring it up at a board meeting, because some people are doing it right and some people are doing it the wrong way. Because I would like to have an answer. You're retired now. Can you tell me what your policy was at Pecos?
She can't talk to you.
Okay, till 31st.
No, anybody who sees something that's wrong, they're required to report it. That's in their handbook, they have the information, that's what they call in. The person who actually knows what's happening when it needs to call.
But when I safety,
Excuse me, let's
what?
let's refer our questions to the superintendent.
Okay, all right, well, I'll refer.
We'll let him answer our questions.
Yes, sir. So to answer what is the policy, okay, and for lack of not trying to insult anyone's knowledge of the policy, their legal obligation is to report, period.
Understood.
Their legal obligation is to report. Now, if I go down a little bit further, in board policy, it says the school administrator should be informed following the immediate report and abuse after basically the agency referral has been done. So as far as the principals, and every training we have ever given has never said, you give this report to the principals and let the principals decide if it goes any further. If they suspect it, they're supposed to report it.
Supposed to. Doesn't mean that it's happening.
Well,
And then, I got another question since I'm referring this to you, Brian.
Thank you.
So when a kid calls, let's say a teacher calls a kid out of his name, do we report that? We call a kid out of his name. We got coaches that say things. Is that to be reported?
okay.
You can't have it both ways.
I don't,
And and what I'm saying is, this report, based upon what I've talked to, who I've talked to from the state, what should have been done was, once I have a safety plan, there's no report. Because what's the purpose of a safety plan and then a report? And there's nothing on here that says this is subject to being reported. And I'm not opposed to it, but hell, it would have been nice to have it at the bottom of the deal. Hey, by law, we are subject, and that's what normal paperwork at all daycares have on it. If you go look at any daycare, it says at the bottom, we are bound by, I got caught off guard. Because I followed everything. And when I talked to the CYFD people, they said once this was in place, there shouldn't have been a report. So somebody needs to give me well, I'm dealing with the state right now. I'm clear. I'm going to put that out there. I'm clear. It's just when we pick and choose how we're going to report and who we're going to report, we better be consistent.
yes, sir. And that would be not even pretty much, that would be every one of our policies, and that's phenomenal advice, and that's what we strive for. I'm not saying we're perfect. With respect, I won't be speaking to this situation, as I don't know that that's in, I don't know that, well, I'm not going to speak to that. I've been more than happy. We have talked, okay? I wasn't blindsided by this. I've known this was coming. We were going to talk about it. What I had proposed to Mr. Edwards is just what we've done. We're going to get it out in the open. and we're going to discuss and we're going to work to make things better as far as the policies and procedures that we have in place. But in regards to this particular situation, I won't be addressing this, but I do know that is always our stretch, is to try to do things the same way every time, a nameless, faceless procedure. Does that always work? It doesn't. When it doesn't, we try to learn from it and we move forward with it.
Hey, this is Jared Ashby. Hey, I have a couple questions. I guess my first question is for James. Hey, James, so were you, and I just want to understand this better because I'm actually looking at CYFD's website. There's 3 types of abuses that they handle: physical, sexual abuse, and then neglect. Nothing about mental abuse. So were you reported based on apparently a comment that you said to your nephew about, or to a coach, that he needs to run?
That was included in the report, and I was telling him that based upon what the doctor told me.
Hey, and then my second question, so that's not even covered by CYFD in their own website, so I don't know why that question was even being posed. But secondly, a question, I guess, for Brian, because I would lose my mind if some adult sits one-on-one with my kid in a room without a parent there other than the teacher. So my I guess, question for Brian, is that policy that CYFD can be alone with my kid in a room? Because I don't trust anybody.
In the grounds that they're worried about particular types of child abuse, the answer is yes. They have that authority.
So they have the authority to pull my kid without telling me in a room without my knowledge, one-on-one.
If you are suspected of child abuse, the answer is yes.
Well, see, they said emotional, and social.
Yeah, it's just not on their website. Maybe they do, but they say that they address 3 different abuses: physical, sexual, and neglect. Hey, Ryan, this isn't a pejorative on you. Is that, so you're saying that CY, the Protective Services has the, by law they're allowed to do that, or that's the school policy?
I don't know that that would be by law. I know that's the policy and the procedure that we've used for several years when dealing with potential, and again, we're in some gray area here because someone can misconstrue what I'm saying and take it the wrong way in regards to Mr. Edwards, and that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm simply saying is that in circumstances, in multiple circumstances over different levels of buildings that I've been in, when they suspect or there is the potential for, they have the ability and they have had the autonomy to come in and question the child without their parents being present. Yes, sir.
But they have to notify the parents.
I recommend a change to that policy because I will lose my mind as a parent of 2 kids in the school district if any adult one-on-one spends time with my kid behind a closed door. Because it sounds like to me that individual harassed James's nephew more than James. And again, no adult will sit in a room unsupervised with my kids.
Superintendent, may I?
I don't trust any adult.
I apologize. So, a couple of things that I'm thinking about. First of all, Mr. Edwards, I am sorry that this happened, but I think that it really speaks to the work that we've done this past spring in putting together a protocol, because we knew that what we have is pretty weak, and so we really wanted to do a thorough job with that, which I believe the team did, and they're ready to present. So that's the first thing. The second thing is it is not a part of our current protocol to make a CYFD referral based on a suicide assessment. Those 2 are not attached. So again, the situations are very individualized. When we have a substantive threat of self-harm, it can look very different for different reasons. And even the safety plans, coming back are different. It's just, that's part of, we're all individuals and our students are all individuals and have different needs. So we have to be very careful with that. And that's why principals contact one of our team to staff those situations so that we can walk through, make sure that the assessment was done correctly. The other thing is just, I'm thinking about my time as a principal, and one particular situation that I had where it was a very severe abuse case, suspected abuse case, and the parent was violent, and it was really, I literally had to keep the child in a room and call the police and have CYFD there before the parent, and when the parent got there, they were irate physically. I feared for harm for myself, for the child. I was grateful that the police were there in that situation. And so, and you know, also, we're all, you know, we're parents here too, and I understand the concerns with not wanting our children talked to by someone, but there are very extreme circumstances that do happen. And we have to really use very good discernment. So I don't know if that's helpful or not.
Hey, I didn't hear all that. I appreciate that, Ms. Cole. Hey, just a quick, as we're sitting here talking, doing some internet searches, there's many CYFD caseworkers that have been charged with child abuse and child neglect just in New Mexico. Again, I think that's a policy that needs to look at, and I'll make a motion for that. Again, the school district, the kids are in the school district's care. No other adult outside of the school district, to include a caseworker, needs to come and talk to any of our kids without another witness there.
So, Mr. Ashby, I do have that noted. Again, that's something that we're looking forward to bringing back. And I do have it noted that your concern is when the students are pulled out and that and now I'll add no other adult. In some cases, I know that they have asked and or the principals have said, hey, are you fine to talk to this adult? They want to visit with you, XYZ. And then there's even been a couple cases where the principals have said, hey, you know, would it be possible for me to set over off to the side? There have been cases where they've said yes, and there have also been cases where they've said no. And I think one of the big things that I'd like to bring, you know, up, we don't always deal with the most upright and integral people, and we do have a lot of people that do harm their kiddos. And you know, it's like I said, that was going back to what I opened with, is that we can't be wrong in how we open up the proceedings to try for this one. And again, we're gonna get better always. And what I would say is, if I could, I would like to maybe reach back out, Mr. Ashby, Mr. Edwards as well, and make sure that I got everything so that as we bring these things back forward, we can look at policy. Ms. Sanchez, I get with Ms. Trujillo, with you and Mr. French, we can maybe revamp and look at policy to make sure that, one, we are following statute, and then two, we could also include that. We do talk about that every year in our legal boot camp with our administrators. That is one of our primary videos that we must watch. Every staff has to watch that every year. I literally have seen that video 26 years straight. So we can, you know, always we're making sure that we get better at that. But with respect, I would like to maybe pull off to the side so that I can get everything down word for word, and then we can start working that policy back up from the ground up if possible.
You know, I think what concerns me, Brian, is any time that there's been a vote where it's been kind of, you know, controversial or can be not what certain people want, but we make a vote and we have to hold our vote, but then we get attacked. We as board members get attacked. And if you want me, you know, and I don't want to air out dirty laundry here, but I've seen enough. I've seen enough, and sometimes enough is enough. You know, I've seen the emails that have went out, and I won't touch some of those emails. But I'm just saying, you know, if I would have had something on here that says, hey, look, this is subject to being reported to CYFD, no problem. But I got caught off guard. I'd done everything that this thing says, and it was only because he went to a suicide page. He went to a self-harm page, and they flagged it, and I was understandable. You know, so I'm gonna just tell parents and people out there, be leery of what you say in front of maybe sometimes RISD people, because you'll get turned in for stuff that's it's already been cleared. But I had to go through that to get cleared. And unfortunately, my nephew has had this to suffer it. And I can bring, the next meeting, I'll have him here to speak. I'll give him his 3 minutes. And that's all I'm gonna say. I'll just leave it at that.
Next item?
Let's move on to the next item.
All right. At this time, and I'm going to need a little help on this one, for Senate Bill 137, which was discussed at the law conference, what would be about 3 weekends ago now, give or take. And some of the changes, I know in your packet, we have some of the training schedules and training cycles that's kind of color coordinated right there. But also some of the new state statutes that are coming up in regards to mandatory training. So I'm going to turn that over to Board President Mr. Cheney and Ms. Sanchez, and we can kind of talk through that. And then I can dovetail that into the next one, which is the board working sessions.
So yeah, there was a Senate bill that passed that requires that we now have more mandatory training hours. And that we get some of these hours in some select categories that the state has defined for us.
Did they, excuse me, Mr. President, members of the board, did they give you the updated number of training hours? What did they come up with on this one for SB?
Well, the newly elected board members need to complete at least 2 hours
Okay.
in the following categories that we have listed here. They have to have 2 hours in each topic, plus a minimum of 10 hours of training the first year.
Okay.
And then for the veteran board members, we're required to just do the 5 hours of training after the first year.
Gotcha.
But I just want to say, as for myself, by attending these conferences, all these years that I've been on the board, it has equipped me with the skills and the knowledge to know what my role is and my responsibility as a board member. I've learned about the rules, regulations, and the laws the board members need to know. Relationships with our superintendent, how to talk to school personnel, and the use of our legal counsel and the pitfalls to avoid. So it is something that is required for all of us. We took an oath that we were going to have as much knowledge as we can so that we could run the district, and it's all for the benefit of our students. And that's all I want to say.
Well,
And I don't know if by board members not attending the mandatory training, I don't know if there's a legal repercussion on this, or we would lose funding. I think it's something that maybe the School Board Association would be able to answer for us, Mr. Luck.
yes, ma'am, I have that question written
I
down.
don't know, we need to seek legal counsel on this, but I don't think it's a choice that we make as board members. I'm not going to attend none of these because I took my oath that I was going to be a responsible board member, and I want to follow through my commitment.
These trainings they do take a portion of your time, but they are worthwhile. They provide good, new, useful information, collaborations with other districts, other boards across the state,
Absolutely.
going through same or similar issues, so.
Well, then, Mr. President, members of the board, I just going through and doing a quick math. We have volunteered more than once with our council, who we share with multiple districts in this area. As far as if that's kind of our go-to hour, I would say 10, just for the heck of it. If a 10-hour minimum is what we're looking at, that I could reach out and see if we could maybe host some regional events where we could share cost with said council, and/or they could maybe bring in, and perhaps maybe even Zoom, where we could do some training sessions so that we could maybe make it a little bit easier than the 4-hour drive down to Jal, and love the oil field traffic. I know Mr. Ashby does that every day, but that's a new one for me to get down into that area. So if with board permission, I would like to reach out to our group to see if maybe they've got some stuff planned. Because if I can't believe that we would be the only district that would be looking for, upping the opportunities for training with our boards.
Another thing, Mr. Luck, that maybe you or the board president can write a letter to maybe the New Mexico PET or the School Board Association, and maybe have a compromise if possible, so that maybe we can come up with alternative training formats and schedules that might be acceptable and workable with the rest of all of the board members. I don't know.
I think what Superintendent Luck is suggesting is, yes, we don't have to do their certified training. We can get training credits, and we can work with the NMSBA on that to get credit for the categories that we need. I think that's absolutely possible.
Yes, because I know that the School Board Association will be putting it out there for the public on either newspapers or the news.
Yes, ma'am.
About all the board members in this district that have attended and the hours that they have completed, and the ones that have not.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
And I will say two things, Mrs. Sanchez, members of the board, that I know we have tried on a couple of different occasions, and we've got things through with Mr. Guillen, told him what we were doing, our working sessions, like our board retreats, and that some of those have actually counted, and then maybe even the potential to maybe utilize some of our vector solutions. It's what our teachers do, where we have different types of trainings that are available, that if they would afford that, then you could do that whenever, wherever you had the opportunity, and we would have record of that. So, well, y'all gave me 2 or 3 real good things right there, so I'm gonna make sure that I get with our crew, and I will have an answer emailed to y'all within the next week.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, next information item, which would be board work sessions. We have had a couple different discussions in the past about the possibility of lengthening and/or holding an additional work session on the day of a board meeting, i.e. if the board meeting starts at 6 o'clock, that you could start it anywhere you would like to within that day, whether that be a 1 o'clock start time or a 5 o'clock or a 4 o'clock, so that the board might have an opportunity to hear things before we come into, it would still be a public session, but it would be a little more of an informational setting where you could have some back and forth with members of my team, and/or that would also give us an opportunity to ask some questions, and then give us the chance to go find some of the answers that we can't. We can prepare for as much as possible, but when we get down to that one question that we just didn't have the answer for, and Mr. Bewley has to run back to his office and throw all the stuff off of his desk and find that last piece of paper, that would give us some chances for that. But that would be something that as a board, that's well within the grounds. I know Lovington does something similar to that, and I don't know if any of the other board members from around the state that you've talked to, but it would provide maybe a little bit more of a working opportunity to then come in here, and then you could make your final decisions. So, wanted to bring that before you though, and let y'all discuss that.
I think I like the working sessions that gives all the board members a chance to talk about topics in depth and review material before the meetings, or clarify questions like Mr. Sexton was able to clarify some questions I had. I think I have a notebook full of questions, but I don't want to ask them here. So if I had that opportunity before the meeting, that would be great. But I still think that it's going to add extra meeting time to already the busy schedules that you guys have. So I don't know how that would work.
speaking for myself, I don't know that I have much time before our regular meetings to make it for any length of time that would be meaningful. I can't speak for our other board members.
Mr. President, Mr. Ashby.
Mr. Ashby?
I'm thinking through it right now. I like the idea personally. I think it would help me get more fidelity or understand more, but that's just, again, that's my thoughts.
Well, Mrs. Sanchez, Mr. President, members of the board, what I would like to propose is perhaps maybe an action item at our next board meeting that could come forward and maybe look at scheduling and trying it out.
At least once.
And see how that would work, and then as my team goes, we'll make ourselves available. That we know that on Mondays or whatever day of the week that was going to be, that we have our meetings, that's what we're doing. We're doing school board meetings, so we would make ourselves readily available for that.
Do you know of any other district that is conducting these working sessions?
I know Lovington, and I'm kind of scanning the room here. I got a wealth of knowledge in the room here. I got Lovington, and I think I've talked to a couple other that Mr. Maxey, our former UNICEF representative, did represent, and they have used it. So I'll reach out to Superintendent Quinones and find out how that works for Lovington. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. The next two, I know Mrs. Sanchez had requested some information early on special education IEP implementation and requirements, and I do believe she was given that information. So at one point we were actually going to strike this from the agenda, but she wanted to make a comment about it, so we did go ahead and leave this on the agenda.
No, I just want to thank Mrs. Gibson for taking the time to address the questions I had on this new IEP template and platform.
Well, and I tell you what, we have reached out to Dr. Gage, who is our new Deputy Secretary of Special Education. I serve on a committee with her. She's a brilliant lady. We have offered, just like we were saying with the training sessions, to get her down here and use Roswell as a hub. When we do, I will make sure that y'all are all invited. She's got a wealth of knowledge, and you can definitely tell that is a very kid-centered approach as she approaches her business. So I look forward to introducing y'all. And I know Mrs. Gibson and Mrs. Patterson are feverishly finishing up IDAB. So I'm sure they're watching right now and finishing up IDAB.
Well, you know, Mr. Luck, during the conference, this conference a couple weeks ago, the exact effective date for this IEP templates and platform is not specified, but they told us it's likely that the New Mexico PED will want to implement it for this coming school year. So I don't know. They're supposed to train all our teachers and get them ready for this, but when you have access to the real-time information on the exact date, would you keep us posted on that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I do know, and this is something that I've talked to not only my senior admin team, but to all of my administrators, as the public education department becomes fully staffed, one of my biggest fears is kind of coming to fruition now. And that is that they're hitting us with their deadlines, and whereas before some of those deadlines were written in invisible ink, and now not so much. So we're being inundated with our hard deadlines, and we're doing everything we can. But I will make sure that we continue to communicate with the board as far as any of those changes come up. So thank you. All right, and then Mr. Cheney, do you want to talk about that one here? Or do you want to do that in board communications, the Title IX?
I don't have anything to add for Title IX.
Yeah, I was unable to find anything that dealt with changes. I know some of the talk at the law conferences was that the difference in changes with Title IX. As always, we're going to do everything we can to stay in compliance and to keep up to date. So we watch constantly for that, and we'll move forward.
Fantastic.
Okay. All right, and next item up is our strategic plan update. So we have, it's funny, I was sitting down and looking at the strategic plan, and I was like, okay, which one of these bullet points do I wish to talk about tonight? And I'm going to credit Ms. Cole and her team and their work. It's time for us to review that and to get back with some new goals. We have testing data. My principals are sitting there with kind of a mixed look on their face, but we have testing data to talk about, and we need to go back and do a little bit of updating. It's a multi-year plan. Obviously, it expires according to what we wrote in 2027, and there are several of the things that are on there that are going to stay good up through 2027. But what I was going to update tonight would be, and I know we're a little short-handed, so this is going to be more of a please email me, which is I would be looking for 2 board members to sit down and kind of go back over strategic plan, and let's look for some key areas again. So like I said, I'm not saying we're done with it, but I do think that we've done some really strong work over the last year. And if any board member is interested in serving on that, please email me, and we'll make sure that we get, and if everybody jumps on board, I'll figure it out, and y'all won't all be there at the same time, but we could sure make sure that we get that feedback, because I think that was huge when we developed the initial strategic plan, and I think it's time. I really do. I think it's time. I'm not like, again, I mean, there's always something more that we could talk about that's in there, but I'm ready right now for a little bit of a once over to see where we're at with that. So if you guys could, please email me, and I'll make sure that I get a date and a time when we can look that over, please. All right. Let's see, construction update. Not much has changed. I know we have a meeting in Santa Fe coming up this week to talk a little bit more about some Nancy Lopez work, but we're still finishing up the construction here at Central Office. There's, pardon me, there's been work going on the roof at Roswell High. If you were over there, their new fire alarm,
It works.
it works. It's funny, it's not as loud as the other one, but you hear that thing faster than fast. Then the guy starts talking, because it's a voice-activated system too. And I know LJ can speak to that a whole lot more than I can, but it will definitely get your attention. So I know that they're wrapping that up at Roswell High. We have summer paint crews going on throughout the district right now. I want to say Goddard, and I think there's 3 or 4. They've got the group split up. They're inside the building, they're outside the building. We're just doing some normal, regular old upkeep. I know we've got some parking lot work that's fixing to start at Roswell High over by the gymnasium, as well as over at Goddard. Some long overdue work that's going on there. And then just the great work done by our district maintenance team, figuring out what didn't make it through the year, what was able to make it through the year that needed some help when we got done. But just, continuing with the projects at hand and working to plan. So I will stand for questions on the construction update, knowing that Jeremy has provided me with about as much as I got. And Mike, if I missed anything, Mr. Sexton? Okay. All right. Next up, school safety and security. I was talking with somebody the other day, and the comment came up, might have been safety officer. I can't remember who I was talking to, and they cringed. And they cringed because Mr. Harrell has taught us that we should all cringe when they say those words, and that the two don't go together. And so I laughed, because I was like, okay, it's getting through. But as far as our summer work, I know we've got cameras being installed. And again, I'm not going to get real in-depth and in detailed where they're at. Continuing to work with Zero Eyes, which is our software company that will tap into that. And we've got conferences going on. We've got obviously trainings that'll start taking place in July with our NTO. And I know Mr. Harrell is back there. And if you have any burning questions as far as any of our safety updates, we stand for questions. All right. That concludes the information items, Mr. President, members of the board.
All right, moving on to approval of the minutes.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the minutes of the May 13th, 2024 regular meeting and the May 29th, 2024 special meeting.
Any discussion? Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez, and I will second it. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. Moving on to our consent agenda.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the consent agenda to include approve May bills, authorize June bills, approve June bars, 2023-2024 bars.
All right, do we have any discussion or questions on these? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Ashby, second made by Ms. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those
Aye.
opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. On to our action items.
All right, and Mr. Cheney, or President Cheney, excuse me, we need to make sure that we get in touch with Mr. French.
Okay. So for how to add some of that.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Good evening, Mr. French. Still shows connecting.
Unknown participant is now joining.
There we go. Good evening, Mr. French.
Hello.
We're getting ready to start our action items section of the meeting.
And Mr. President, members of the board, just to confirm, we still have Mr. Ashby on as well?
Yes, sir, I'm still on.
Awesome, all right. All right, sir. So, floor is yours.
All right. First up, we have the 2024-2025 revised district calendar.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the 2024-2025 revised district calendar. So what this is, when we went to submit our SB 910, or 910B, not SB 910, or 910B calendar, we were 1 day shy of what we were looking for as far as our numbers. So what we did is we kind of put our heads together because didn't really want to go back to the teachers and say, hey, I've got to have you for another day, or you're fixing to give up this day or that day. And what we're going to do is this. We have listed on the calendar that's written in front of you, I believe it's the 27th of May, as a professional development day for teachers, knowing that that particular day is going to float throughout the course of the year. So one of the things that I have heard for years, I think I might have even said this more than once, is the excessive number of videos that we have to watch at the beginning of the year, and how there's no way that to get them done by Christmas, that you're not having to use some of your own personal time to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to acknowledge the length and the amount of the videos and give our employees the time. We're paying them a day to watch their videos, okay, as far as going out through the course of the year. So I'm going to I list the 27th as the last day, which is a professional development day that they will have well completed months before we get to the 27th. So, I mean, for all of the teachers and all of the, boy, this is a lot, and I can't believe you need to be paying us for this. Well, I heard your wish, and we were able to actually play it into two different areas for us. So it's going to count as a PD day for us, as well as it gives them an opportunity to be compensated for the work that they're doing off contract time.
All right.
Oh, yes. I hear it at the house too, believe me.
Sounds like a great thing for our teachers.
Yes, sir.
Can we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez and seconded by myself. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. Next, we have the REA Collective Bargaining Agreement.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the REA Collective Bargaining Agreement. And I have our representatives here that got a chance to speak. Again, just cannot emphasize enough how nice this was. And our hope is that it passes tonight.
Any other discussion? Thank you again for your participation and getting this done in a timely manner.
We'll do it again
is
next year.
Very, very appreciated. Can we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez.
Second. Second.
Second made by Mr. Ashby. All those in favor say aye.
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 The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. We'll move on to the FY 24-25 food service salary schedules.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the fiscal year 2024-2025 food service salary schedules. And I know Ms. Meeks is here. I know this was something that we brought forward, working to amend. Mr. Sexton, if you want to speak any more to that one.
Yes, so the food service salary schedules included a 3% and some adjustments to certain positions that were not equitable, so to speak. So we did adjust those appropriately.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
You created a new position, is that correct?
Yes, so
Is
the
that something that the
kitchen-
district needed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that person's already employed in the district?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, seeing no other questions, let's move on to, can I get a motion to approve? Okay, I'll make the motion to
I'll second.
approve the food service salary schedules, and a second made by Ms. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it, and the motion has carried. Next, we have the FY 24-25 CWA salary schedules.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the fiscal year 2024-2025 CWA salary schedules. Mr. Sexton, would you like to speak to that one?
Yeah, so these just included the mandated 3% as well, and that was what was negotiated.
All right, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez, and I will second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. Moving on to FY, 24-25 administrator salary schedule.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the fiscal year 2024-2025 administrator salary schedule.
Includes 3% mandated as well.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez, second made by Mr. French. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it and the motion is carried. Next, we have the FY 24-25 addenda.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the fiscal year 2024-2025 addenda. Mr. Sexton.
Not a lot of changes here. Most of them rolled over. We did, the longevity was negotiated with the CWA, so we rolled that out. I think they're getting 10 cents per year starting at year 15. So it goes 25, 45 cents, and then at year 15, it will increase to 10 cents per year. And then the National Board Certified increased a little bit too. But other than that, there were not a lot of changes. I think we added in extra duty. I think there's a bus stipend, early duty.
That's correct.
bus
Early,
duty.
early morning bus stipend. My
Right.
apologies, Mr. Sexton.
And I believe that was it.
Oh, okay.
This,
These are-
this doesn't have the relocation allowance anywhere in there, does it? I thought I had read
might.
it somewhere.
You probably did see it in there.
Is it something new for this school, this coming year?
No, that it's not new.
Okay. It's not in there? It
It's
must have
not
been.
new.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other discussion?
Mm-mm.
Mr. Chairman, may I please make a request that I can hear the votes? I'm not hearing Mr.
Okay.
Or Mr. Ashby vote.
Okay,
I'm going to assume.
all right. Can I get a motion to approve? I'll make the
So
motion.
moved.
Okay,
I was waiting for something.
I'll make the motion. And Mr. French will second it. All those in favor say aye.
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 Yeah.
It's okay. The ayes have it and the motion is carried. Moving on to attendance improvement grant FY 24-25.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the attendance improvement grant fiscal year 24-25. And,
Question.
oh, yes, ma'am.
Is this directed to Mrs. Cole?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Was this RFA submitted on time for funding?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do we have a chronic rate of absentee students at a 45% or more?
So there's a little discrepancy in our data this year
Okay.
because of the integration to the new Nova system.
Mm-hmm.
So I apologize, I can't tell you the exact
Mhm.
chronic absenteeism rate.
I know that's
but
what's in there, that's why it
It's
says.
high enough to qualify for
For-
that.
okay.
We used, I worked with Lucy Morgan on that. I believe we used the count from the previous year.
Okay.
So we do know that it's reduced just based on looking at the individual schools,
Mhm.
but we had to use the data from the previous year
Okay.
for the application.
And do you have the innovative plans already in place? That's going to be addressing all these areas of student re-engagement and improve attendance. Is that already in place?
Yes, ma'am. It's a work in progress, so we
Mhm.
received the grant this year. We have a really large community team who's been working on it. We have several subcommittees
Mhm.
and people from the community, and so it's an evolving plan, but the answer is yes.
Okay. I know that you have an intervention strategy to support students from pre-K all the way to 12. And the district will reduce the chronic absentee from our students by 50% from academic year 22-23 to 24-25. Is that a realistic goal?
I think it is realistic based on the work that we're doing this year. So we have a couple of things that are in place that we'll be implementing next year. One of them is we're going to focus really hard with our community this upcoming school year. We wanted to do that this last year, but we didn't receive access to the funding in time to do a great job with that. So we're planning a huge launch at the beginning on July the 30th with our staff in RISD, and on the 31st with families and students. It'll be at the Civic Center. And so we'll have all kinds of information for them and resources. We have things like refrigerator magnets that have phone numbers for people that they can contact. We have we have a few agencies who've contacted us who want to help us. They want to work with us when students are struggling with attendance, and so we'll be developing those partnerships. The other thing that we've been working on is we've been working with Read Write Digital. And so that's our platform that houses all of our data. Mr. Bewley does a lot of work with him, our IT department. And so it has, our assessment data, our attendance data, our discipline data. And so if you remember last year, they created the virtual next step plans for us. So this year, they've been working with a team from the district to develop an attendance platform. And so it'll be a workflow. So when our school administrators and our school attendance teams use that platform, they'll be able to track what's happening with a student. And I just had a Zoom call with the Read Write Digital team this afternoon. And so they want to integrate our parent contact data so that when we get to a certain place in that workflow, all we have to do is click a button and it will automatically mail through the U.S. Postal Service a letter. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to bring it here and have it stamped. We don't have to do anything. It'll automatically send that to the parents. So that will be built into the system. They've done a lot of work with the team on defining, looking at the various root causes of attendance issues. We had a survey that the team put out this last year. And so those are identified within that protocol. And so it will help the team really develop some RAP supports for those students who are chronically absent. The other thing that we want to look at is the students who are dropping out. They're 10-day drops. They're not coming to school because they're behind in credits, because they're, whatever those kinds of issues are, and having some support systems in place for that. And that can look like giving stipends. So stipends are written into the application. It's a lot of work for our school staff to track these chronically absent students and to work with the families. And it takes a lot of time after hours for them to do that. So we really want to support them. It's tough, and so we'll be able to do that if we receive the funding.
I noticed the list of all these agencies that are, helping. And is the Roswell Chamber not included in this at all?
They will be.
They will?
We'll be working with them. One of the people on our whole core committee that's working on the Welcome Back has contacted the Roswell Chamber, and so we'll start including them, but they're not there yet, so
Okay.
I didn't include.
I was just wondering why.
The other thing that we'll be doing is more project-based learning. Some of our secondary principals have asked for more project-based learning, and so we can actually use hands-on projects and capstone projects to recover credits for students. So an example of that would be using students who are in a construction pathway to work in the community. Maybe they're building housing for, affordable housing for people who are without, and they can actually earn credits toward graduation for doing that. So it's really integrating your math and your language arts and all of your contents into the project. So I'm super excited to launch that. We're also looking at some after-hours programming for credit recovery and paying teachers to teach students in the evenings. We don't want that to be like the out for students, but we also want to give them, we want to
Opportunity.
afford them the opportunity to earn the credits that way. So all of that is written into the grant.
And what you're talking about is in strategy 3. And my question would be, who will be in charge of doing this, and will it be ready by the start of the new year?
It will be a work in progress for the fall semester. Hopefully to be implementing some of it in the spring semester. We may be able to implement some of the after hours. And really, it takes the subcommittees and the leads from those. I'm looking over at 2 of our high school principals. So
And
I
assistant principal,
I
too?
talked to both of them, and actually all 4 of them are sitting there. So, yeah, they'll be leading some of that work for us.
Did they know that?
2 of them know, 2 of them don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, let's get a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez, seconded by myself. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All right. The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. Moving on to the Family Income Index application for Sunset Elementary School.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the Family Income Index application for Sunset Elementary School. All right, and give me a sec. Pull that up. Ms. Cole, any more than what we've already said on this one? It's, I mean, we're fixing to roll through some multiple schools on this, right?
No, they're just receiving a continuation.
Just
They still
continuation.
qualify. And so
No.
there will be some virtual things that
They're gonna
Mrs.
continue.
Trujillo wrote in. I think she added some furniture. They have some dilapidated furniture, so she added that. And then some virtual learning things for their gymnasium.
Wasn't Pecos Elementary part of this last year? No, not at all?
No.
They never been?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Not this last year.
Okay. Why? No.
All right. Seeing no other discussion, can I get approval? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez.
Second.
Oh.
Second. Oh.
Second made by Mr. Ashby. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, the ayes have it, and the motion has carried. Now we're gonna do the Family Income Index application for Nancy Lopez Elementary.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the Family Income Index application for Nancy Lopez Elementary School.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
Oh, second.
Motion made by Mr. French, second made by Ms. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the ayes, well. I didn't hear from you guys. Did you, either of you vote yes on that one?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, that was an aye for me too.
all right. Then that was unanimous. Thank you. It has passed, and we'll move on to our next item. Next, we have the FY 24-25 Innovation Zone Grant for Goddard High School.
Sorry. Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the FY 24-25 Innovation Zone Grant for, excuse me, Goddard High School.
What was the exact amount that was awarded to Goddard?
You got it? All right, I'm going to let Dr. Cottrell talk
Okay.
about that as I go and look that up too.
Okay, President Cheney, members of the board, Superintendent Luck, $149,000 was awarded this year to Goddard High School from the Innovation Zone grant. We received it last year as well. The one part that was left out for us, we had some social emotional learning opportunities to rebuild some areas, and they left that piece out. But I put together just a little handout.
Okay,
that
thank
can
you.
look at, that has to do with our the grant and kind of some of the things that go along with the grant there, and some of our data that we've seen, some of the value that we've gotten from the Innovation Zone grant. The two big areas that it supports for us is our tutoring center and now work-based learning coordinator for us as well as some salaries for any of our students who are out in apprenticeships or internships. And I think you'll see in there, they talk a lot about, in America today, the crime rate, and it has to do with the inequity between basically the haves and the have-nots, and really skill acquisition is the best opportunity for all of us to help our students move forwards. And at any time we see, in school, it's always, the students do move through American public education. We kind of educate them in bunches, and so a lot of times they get there at different levels. So it is a nice opportunity for us to be able to track their missing assignments and be able to direct our tutoring towards the students and have them actually build up their skills. I mean, the teachers can work with that, but the reality is, especially since COVID, it has become a little bit overwhelming for some of those teachers as well. So now we've created both peer tutors as well as adult tutors who are there, every single day to help our students gain the skills that they need to be successful. So we're hoping that our grades and things from now on will represent actually the skill acquisition as opposed to just something that they gave.
Lots of work done at all schools, but
Absolutely.
lots of work.
Any questions? Discussion? Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez, seconded by myself. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All those opposed? None opposed? The ayes have it and the motion is carried. Next we have the fiscal year 24-25 Innovation Zone Grant, Roswell High School.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the fiscal year 24-25 Innovation Zone Grant for Roswell High. I have Ms. Mendoza here if you'd like to say it. Ms. Baca, even better. How about you both come up? He does that. He leaves it.
Mr. President, members of the board, and Superintendent Luck, we received $193,000 for our Innovation Zone grant. The largest portion we are going to utilize to establish more meaningful internship opportunities for our students. So we would like to provide paid internship opportunities for our students that don't already currently have that, so that they're receiving some work experience. So kind of to generate some excitement for the internship opportunity. We're still working on creating partnerships with several different businesses in the community. We have promises from about 12 new businesses for this next year. And then the majority of the rest of the funding will be used for different software that we're going to utilize to improve our CTE programming. So we've got, as we started to work on our graduate profiles, information from students and community members and parents and teachers. One of the things that we're lacking in our CTE programming is providing soft skill training for our students. So just communication skills, resume building, all of the things that they need to be successful when they go to apply for a job or get a job. So some of that funding is going to be used to provide some curriculum to help our CTE teachers better service our students in terms of soft skills. And then we've got some other software that we're going to utilize to track internship experiences. We're hoping that students that don't have that opportunity, that we can provide job shadowing. And so that's what the majority of our funding will be used for.
Any questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez, and I will second it myself. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. Moving on to the fiscal year, nope, let's see, what is it? Next one is going to be the, yes, fiscal year 24-25 Perkins 5 application and next gen application.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the fiscal year 24-25 Perkins 5 application and next gen application. Ms. Leonard, do you want to speak to that at all?
And what exactly is that for, and who does that go to?
President Cheney, members of the board, Superintendent Luck. When you're looking at Perkins 5 and Next Gen, this is for our CTE programs, our career and technical programs. Perkins 5 is a
Perfect.
federal grant, and Next Gen is a state grant that helps subsidize and help meet those needs of our CTE programs.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. President, members of the board, if I may, this has been around a long time, the Perkins, and it's one of those that it's the monster you love to, or hate to love, but it's been very beneficial to hundreds of kids in our district over the course of the years. And thank you. It's a monster, and the high school principals know it. They all have a strict set of standards that they have to go by whenever they're working with Perkins. Nothing can be spent unless it's spent exactly where it's supposed to be. And there's about 7 checks and balances that go with this one. So a good grant, but a very strict one that holds our feet to the fire.
Superintendent, if I may, I would just like to add that Mrs. Leonard did a really good job this year of pulling the team together. And by that, we had high school CTE teachers and high school principals who all looked at the application together, and they gave input to the application. So we have what's called Region K, and Roswell is part of Region K, but it's the region that decides which programs are funded through Perkins 5, and so it can't go to just any CTE program. It has to be through the ones that were decided by this region. So anyway, and it is extensive reporting. Mm-hmm. We have to calculate the students who are completers in the pathway and concentrators, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. So just wanted you to be aware of that.
Any discussions or questions? Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. So moved.
Okay. Motion made by Mr. French. And I will second it. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to the fiscal year 24-25 rural low-income schools.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the fiscal year 24-25 rural low-income schools, RLIS. And Ms. Leonard's just going to stay here for a while because these are all hers.
This is a Title V federal money allotted to rural low-income schools. The requirement for this one is pretty broad because anything that meets a Title I, Title II, Title III, or Title IV can be part of this application. So it does leave it very broad for professional development, teacher support, support with ELs, support with students of high needs, support with reading, math. It also looks at some of our needs for SEL, for the, it is so broad, but we have chosen this year as a team and as a district to really focus on our social emotional. Ms. Cole, would you like to speak more to that area?
Yes, ma'am. So this is a funding source that we found would be good to support our PBIS and those initiatives that we're in the middle of, quite expensive, and also our security initiatives. Believe it or not, Mr. Harrell asks for money every now and then, and so he needed a funding source to support some of what he does. So it's really about SEL and security.
Any other questions or discussion?
So this could apply also. This could apply to the charter school? I know it has a charter school director.
Yes, actually, one of the requirements for us
you have to
when we
offer.
receive federal funds is that we have to offer to the charter school now. They can decline those funds, but we do have to offer.
Did they accept it, or you haven't asked for the charter school?
I anticipate that they will
They will.
accept.
All right. Any other questions or discussion? Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Ashby, a second made by Mrs. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it and the motion has carried. Next up, we have the fiscal year 24-25 Title I application.
Title II.
Title I, we did low income, now we're doing Title I.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
And I will say, Mr. President, members of the board, there's a lot. And it is easy to get kind of confused, which is why we're going one at a time and trying to take our time with them. Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the fiscal year 24-25 Title I application.
Title I deals with reading and math and supporting the schools in the teacher development as well as the curriculum for all of our schools and all of the training at the school level all the way up to the district level. This one does address administration, whether it's school administration or district administration. So we have a little more flexibility with this one than we do with Title II.
And that included private schools also?
Absolutely, yes, that is a requirement.
So only 3 of the schools accepted,
Yes, ma'am.
and the other ones declined services?
Yes, ma'am.
So I know you have listed a director. Who would the director be, yourself?
That's me.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay. Gotcha.
Superintendent, I would just like to
I think
add
I have an
that
idea what you're fixing to say. Go
We're a
ahead.
district-wide Title I district. We have a high percentage of economically disadvantaged students, and so that's how how Title I is allocated to our district. And then we just have to develop a plan that says this is how we will spend it. So we're Title I district-wide except for Parkview. Parkview does not receive Title I. They're New Mexico Pre-K and other IDEA funding sources. And so the state gives us options of formulas for how we allocate Title I funding out to the schools. And so the majority of our Title I funds actually go to our schools for the students for the current year that they're in. So this application will go, the majority to the schools, and then they're to use it during that school year for those students to improve outcomes right then.
That budget is allocated to the schools based upon the number of low income. And as Ms. Cole stated earlier, there's some, with the switch over to Nova from Power School. Sorry, I tend to back away from that thing because it's right in my nose. Excuse me. So with the switch over to Nova, we ended up having to go back. The information was not correct, and we would have seen a huge dip of students recognized as being low income, which would have put us in jeopardy of possibly losing our district-wide title recognition. So we were advised by the PED to go with the 22-23 school data. So what you will see in the application, that funding going to the schools is based on 22-23 data.
And you listed an attendance officer. Do you have an attendance officer
Yes, we do.
for just this particular?
That's that's how that salary is paid, and that attendance officer is for the district. So they are the ones that help serve our schools.
Oh, okay.
And do the work with our students and our parents.
And the secretary, is that somebody?
Those are mine. Those are the two that work with me, and all of the federal programs and the paperwork that has to be processed with managing the money and each of these accounts, whether it's through requisitions and purchase orders, our teacher work agreements, and with our NTO, NTI.
So the salary amounts that you have here, did you add the 3% increase to those?
There will be a 3% increase, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then the library specialist is the material center up here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions, comments, discussion?
No.
All right. Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez, seconded by myself. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. Okay, now we'll go on to the fiscal year 24-25 Title II application.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the fiscal year 24-25 Title II application. Ms. Leonard.
Thank you. Title II is an application or a grant funding for professional development and teacher support. This money may only be spent on teachers and school building administrators. Again, it's for professional development and that school support.
Looking at the application, even if I increase it to over 100, it's very difficult to read. Impossible
It
to read.
is. I'm sorry,
I'm not able to read anything.
when we try to blow it up and when we print directly from that application platform, every one of them, as you can see, is different. And this one, the way it's spread out on that sheet, we worked with it and worked with it. Julie worked with it, my secretaries worked with it, and we couldn't get it, I apologize, we couldn't get it any larger.
I like to read everything, but I couldn't read that one.
If I could, Mrs. Sanchez, Mr. President, we have noticed a bit of a rash of things when we have to turn stuff in. I know LJ's in the back over there in our safety plan. And some of what we're having to do is on their template at this, it's not very user-friendly whatsoever. So as we get things and we try to bring them to y'all, just please note that we're doing everything we can to try to make it as user-friendly as possible. But we're running into a bit of a rash as far as everybody wants a different format on a different type of a pre-slugged up deal, and you can't change it. And if you try to change it, then whenever you go to submit it, which we had with some of our security grants, it eliminated it. So,
So even if we were to get it emailed, we still not be able to read it? It would be the same issues.
we'll look at it tomorrow to see what we can do.
It's just-
I'm
and
not
then
gonna
it's sideways,
promise.
So you have to.
Get the magnifying glass, I know. It's,
my God.
it's crazy.
I
Can we
would,
ask them for a print-friendly version?
Something.
I always ask them for many things, and this is one that has not gotten any better.
right now, I think we're gonna stick with asking for the money.
Oh,
And
okay.
then we'll
All right.
work on
All
our
right.
print-friendly version later.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or discussion? All right, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. French. And I will second it. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. Thank you. It's always good to see teachers getting more training. Next, we have the fiscal year 24-25 Title IV.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the fiscal year 24-25 Title IV grant.
Title II, you mean? I don't see a
Right.
four.
And
Oh.
actually, at this time, I
Don't,
don't believe I had those
Do we have
attached,
some items?
but, did we put them in here?
Oh, right,
We have
Title
it
II.
Superintendent,
Yes, ma'am.
it was due today, and it was one of those that was a quick turnaround, so I believe Mrs. Bolaños finished it this afternoon.
Okay. Can you give us a bit of an overview on it, real quick?
Yes, Title IV is all about, it's called Safe Schools and Academic Enrichment. And so, again, this is another one that we support LJ with security. It's not a huge amount of funding, but this is what we purchased the Navigate platform with. And that's the majority of it. So there's some academic enrichment pieces to it, but nothing significant. Again, it's not a huge amount of money.
Do we have a rough end dollar amount?
I wish I did. I apologize. I don't. I would
Okay.
say, well, I guess it's all about perspective, but it's about $350,000 to $400,000.
And if you notice, Mr. President, members of the board, over the course of the last year, obviously, you've heard Title IV, Title II mentioned in different parts of supporting different things. Whereas, Title I is a pretty good chunk of change, and we actually have the ability a lot of times to hire personnel with that. This is used supplementally. I promise you, it's something that we're hoping to get when that comes in. But as far as is this the end all be all, I'm going to say no. But it is extremely important for us as we look to supplement and to support our other areas. I know with Navigate by its very existence, we've had multiple presentations on our security. That's on our phones. That's Navigate. So I mean, we're pretty important for us to continue this. So, and I do know, again, we've had a lot of, and I know I've said this, and I sound like a broken record. I don't have any other excuse for some of this than just we get them with the turnaround that we're getting from the state or from the feds right now is extremely short, and I've got 3 people that are doing this. Today I've got 2 sped people right now that are at their houses, frantically trying to put some of this stuff back together because of the turnaround that they were given. So, with respect, that's why we're bringing this, and would hopefully get your approval for Title IV.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms.
Second.
Sanchez. Second made by Mr. Ashby.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? The ayes have it, and that has also passed. Moving on to the fiscal year 24-25, Title I Homeless.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the fiscal year 24-25 Title I homeless. This is a different application than Title I. So, Ms. Cole, you want to speak to that?
Yes, sir. So the Title I application that Mrs. Leonard just mentioned actually includes a portion for McKinney-Vento homeless. This is an additional Title I that comes from Public Education Department to support homeless. And so it's a smaller grant. I think it's about $50,000. And we typically purchase like clothing and supplies, school supplies, school uniforms, those kinds of things for our students who are identified with homeless. Can help with graduation and those kinds of things.
Good deal. Any discussion? Questions? Can I get approval? A motion to approve. I'll make the motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Mr. French. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. Next up, we have the bid recommendation for the 24-11 food.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the bid recommendation 2411 for food. There you go. I have Ms. Meeks. and Ms.
Unknown
Strick.
participant is now exiting.
Mr. President, would it be prudent to find out which one left so we can note that?
Yes, looks like we lost Mr. Ashby.
Did you note that?
Let me see if I need to, and he had to jump off the call. So he will not be returning, I guess.
Okay.
President Cheney, Superintendent Luck, members of the board. So this bid recommendation, along with the next two bid recommendations, are our annual bids that we put out for the Student Nutrition Department to line up and lock in our vendors and items for the upcoming school year. With that, we stand for any questions.
Y'all have the next four, correct? Awesome.
All right. Questions?
No question.
No? Okay. Can I get a recommended, a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms.
Second.
Sanchez, second made by Mr. French. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the motion has passed. Next up, we have the bid recommendation 2412, non-food.
And again, we stand for any questions.
I recommend approval of the bid recommendation 24-12 for non-food. No, you're good. No, you're good. And just non-food would be things like,
Trays.
not homegrown, Trace? Okay.
Yeah, I haven't required that. It's coming.
I guess I did say that, so I can't say I didn't say that. So,
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez, seconded by myself.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. The ayes have it, and the motion has passed. Let's move right along to
Milk action.
the bid recommendation 2413, produce.
I recommend approval of bid recommendation 2413 for produce.
Those are all local?
Not
Majority?
all of them. We buy as many
Okay, as
local
you can.
as we possibly can.
Within season.
Right, we buy it out. But like, we've carried our lettuce through the end of the year. We were purchasing from a local, well, a farmer in Clovis, New Mexico. He has a greenhouse and he supplied us with 200 heads of lettuce a week.
Wow.
So we're trying to find more farmers like that that can carry us.
It's a big greenhouse.
It's a good business.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez.
Second.
Second made by Mr. French. All those in favor say aye.
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 The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. Next up, we have the bid recommendation 2414 milk.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of bid recommendation 2414 for milk.
President Cheney, Superintendent Luck, members of the board, this recommendation we haven't put out. This would be the 4th year since we put it out. As you can see, we only had one bid come in. Cafeteria department is happy though that the one submittal is the incumbent vendor who we used for at least the past 4 years and have a good partnership.
Dean, you mean Dean Dairy? Is it a local dairy? No?
El Paso.
El Paso. Okay. What happened to all our dairies we had? They're gone. Wow.
We would like a local.
They got into another business.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez, seconded by myself. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, and the motion has carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the 2024-2025 Student Transportation Bus Contractors Fleet Service Contracts.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the 2024-2025 Student Transportation Bus Contractors Fleet Service Contracts.
And this is President Cheney, Superintendent Luck, members of the board. This is also an annual contract that we bring to you at this time. This transportation for fleet services is for the to and from transportation, and you'll have copies of contracts for each of our bus contractors.
All right. That's good. Any other questions or discussion?
No, sir.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. French, seconded by myself. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. And the motion has carried. Next up, we have the 2024-2025 Athletic and Activity Trips Bus Contractor Contracts.
I recommend approval, Mr. President, members of the board, my apologies. I recommend approval of the 2024-2025 Athletic and Activity Bus Contractor Contracts.
And I stand for any questions.
And Mr. President, members of the board, if I may, we refer to this quite frequently. I mean, we have several very nice individuals and or booster clubs that would like to help out on occasions and utilize different services. But we do try to remind them that we do have a contract with our company, our bus service company, and that's who we always strive to use first whenever we're looking for any type of activity or out-of-town trips.
Are we gonna have enough of those buses for sports activities? Do you think?
I honestly can't answer that question. I do think that there are some athletic teams that have a high number of students that I don't think we're always able to take all of the students to the track events or to some of the sporting events. But for the most part, I think we are able to accommodate.
I know Mrs. Sanchez, I know Mr. Cooper, Mr. Walker, they work tirelessly. We've moved games, we've had different things occur. We've fought the weather, we've fought lack of bus drivers, we've fought lack of buses. But we'll always work to make sure that we get the kids where they need to be as safely as possible.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve? Motion made by Ms. Sanchez, Second. Second made by Mr. French. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, and the motion has passed. Next up, we have the change the meeting day from Monday to Tuesday.
Mr. President, I'm going to recommend the approval of the change of meeting day from Monday to Tuesday and turn this back over to Board President and to Mrs. Sanchez for you guys to discuss.
Discussion.
I just would.
Yeah,
I
I would, oh, go ahead, Ms. Sanchez, and I'll go second.
Okay. I think that if we keep it on Tuesday, it's gonna, I'm hoping it's gonna improve the attendance, and enhance more of our community engagement. I think that Tuesdays is a long-standing tradition, and, it's gonna be probably more convenient for our community, I'm thinking. But if we move it now at this point, is it gonna require the principals to move some of their dates or calendars or make notifications to their calendars that they already have? No? You don't think?
Mrs. Sanchez, the best answer I would come with that would be I would not anticipate that. I think that a lot of our pre-planning, even some of our really pre-planners, I think that we still have enough time that they could modify. And if that was the decision tonight, you could start in July. And then by August, you would be already well into, that's what we do.
I know for my part, it'll give me more time to prepare and read all the material. Because sometimes I'm gonna be out on Sundays and not get back home in time to review extra materials. So I don't know. We'll see how people vote.
Mr. French?
Yeah, sorry. So I honestly, I don't mind whatever day it's on because, I mean, it just doesn't affect me. I'm not a teacher or an administrator. However, some of the things that we did talk about when we brought this up in the policy meeting this last week was, we understand that we changed it to Mondays due to the activities that were happening sports-wise and extracurricular-wise on Tuesdays throughout the district, which makes it probably easier for parents, administrators, and stuff like that to get there on Mondays. But we do realize the kind of the hassle it's made for administrators and even for like what Ms. Sanchez said, getting prepared throughout the weekend to be prepared on Monday instead of having that work weekday to get prepared. But another thing that we talked about was, if we decide to start having, I don't know what you would call it, Brian. What did we discuss? I don't know if there's an actual name for it, but we kind of talked about having maybe an open, I guess kind of like an open session for the board members or administrators previous to the meeting. We haven't discussed necessarily a time, but to go ahead and get any extra things talked about that we need to talk about, so we're not just kind of like always just bombarded at the meeting to talk about it there. I mean, I don't know if that's the right way to put it, Brian. You want to elaborate on that? But I know we talked about that, and it would be easier to have that on a Tuesday if we do decide to do that than a Monday, because then the notification could be sent out Monday for those things. If we needed to invite a certain administrator that's their school's on the agenda for to be talked about, that we could talk about it with them over Monday if they have any concerns or issues. So by the time the board meeting happens Tuesday, we're well prepared on what we need to discuss, instead of having to just kind of like fly by the seam of our britches on, when we bring it up at the meeting. But that's another reason why we're thinking about bringing it back to Tuesday.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Mr. French, members of the board, if I can. And we did talk a little bit about that earlier, Mr. French, and as I said a minute ago, regardless whatever day is decided upon, we'll make sure that we're available. The opportunity to look over board agenda on the weekend and to have a full day of Monday to ask questions, and then another, set of time on Tuesday as well, going up to the board meeting would be something that would be a benefit. We'll make people available regardless what days we have them.
And I also believe, we just kind of wanted to bring it up. I mean, obviously we could vote tonight, but we just wanted to bring that up just to kind of talk about it. And if we need to make a decision next month and vote on a decision next month, that's fine. But we just wanted to bring it up as a possibility to move that back if everybody feels comfortable doing that.
For me, as we are short 2 board members tonight, or at the time of this action item, I would like to make a motion that we table this for next meeting.
I agree. I agree on that one.
I understand your points, but I would like to have more of the full board participation for that. So, if I can get a second on that?
Second.
All right. All those in favor of tabling this for next meeting?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We got a unanimous table for next meeting. Bring that back.
Yes, sir.
All right, moving on. We have the 2024-2025 fixed operating budget authorization.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the 2024-2025 fixed operating budget authorization. My apologies. And Mr. Sexton, you're up.
Have a brief presentation to go over the budget. The Roswell Independent School Districts has 21 schools, including 12 elementary schools, 4 middle schools, 4 high schools, and a preschool. Early college high school and university high school are considered alternative schools. In addition, Sidney Gutierrez Middle School, a K-8 charter school, is chartered with the Roswell Independent School District. Just a brief overview of the budget process. The budget process is a continual process that includes planning, developing, reviewing, implementing, monitoring and control, and reporting. This continuous cycle allows the district to remain responsive to changing financial conditions, ensure alignment with strategic goals, and maintain fiscal responsibility. The planning phase involves analyzing past revenues, expenses, and expense trends, economic forecasts such as inflation, and setting priorities. The budget is developed around projected revenue. This approach ensures that planned expenditures do not exceed the available resources, promoting financial stability and responsibility. The operational fund. The operational fund's main source of funding is the State Equalization Guarantee, or SEG. The SEG is formula funded based on the average membership or enrollment of the 80th and 120th school day. Memberships are broken down into units and multiplied by the unit value to come to the SEG dollar amount. The unit value is determined by the Public Education Department. The fiscal year 2024-2025 unit value assigned to all school districts is $6,442.55. Approximately 90% of the operational fund expenditures are salaries and benefits. Other major expenditures include instructional materials, utilities, general liability insurance, supplies and materials, software subscription, and information technology. RISD's average memberships from the 80th and 120th day of the fiscal year 2023-2024 were 8,812.75. Average memberships are down 269.25 from fiscal year 2022-2023, resulting in a decrease in funding of approximately $2 million. Our RISD has a total of 18,269.291 program units for fiscal year 2024-2025 based on the 8,812.75 memberships. The district will receive a projected state equalization guarantee of $117,700,820.73. Additional revenues available to the district include property taxes, oil and gas taxes, rental income, E-rate, and indirect costs from federal programs. The operational fund budget reporting detail includes the fund, the function, the object, the program, location, and job class. The fund is used to track specific sources of revenue and corresponding expenditures. The function are the major activities of the fund, such as instructional and support services. The objects are the revenue and expense accounts, and the programs include basic education, special education, bilingual education, elementary fine arts, and elementary PE. The locations are the administrative and school sites, and job classes include administration, school administration, teachers, nurses, social workers, etc. Next slide includes the operational fund expenditures by function and by major expense categories. As you can see in the 1,000 function instruction, 51 million is salaries, 21 million is benefits, and then we have professional and technical services of 59,000, property services of 320,000, other services of 998,000, supplies 19 million, and capital outlay of 102 for a total of 93,000. So this is the instruction function is our largest function. This is where our teachers are paid from, EAs, so forth. Our support services, the 21, I'm not going to go through each one, but that function's total expenditures of 13 million. This function includes direct support to the students. So expenditures from that include nurses, social workers, diags, and so forth. The 2200 function, the instructional support, total expenditures $3,010,667. The 2300 administration function totals 1.9 million. This function is primarily the board and the superintendent. The 2400 function, side administration, total expenditures $8,500,000. This is where the principals are paid from. 2500 function, central services, total expenditures $5,343,000. This function includes HR and the business office as well as IT. 2600 function, maintenance, total expenditures $14,256,000. This is where the operations and maintenance of plant, our custodians and maintenance are paid out of. And then our transportation and 2900 reserved, very little expenditures come out of that. I believe that the 44,000 is insurance, some supplemental insurance that we have. So for a total of 140 million budget. As you can see, just a pie graph that shows the percent of expenditures by function. As you can see, 66.99% goes to the instruction of students. Some notable expenditures, salaries and benefits, total 110 million. Instructional materials, 1.5 million. Insurance, 2.5 million, and utilities, 2.632 million. And this is the projected budget across all funds. So you can see our operational, transportation, food service, athletic, federal funds, Medicaid fund, and then our capital outlay fund start in the 3,000, and then our debt service. And then the last slide is just a breakout by schools of how we allocate these funds. So basically, each school is allocated based off of their the
Enrollment.
memberships at each school. Just some notable, Roswell High is obviously the biggest high school. They received a bigger allocation. Brendo and Sierra, the two bigger middle schools, and so it corresponds with the numbers of students that they have. And then obviously in the elementary you have Del Norte, El Cap, Military Heights, which are larger elementary schools. And so those are actual expenditures by year from FY 21-22, FY 22-23, and FY 23-24 with and the FY 23-24 includes year-to-date plus expenditures. Can I stand for questions?
What bank holds the district's money?
Pioneer.
I'm sorry?
Pioneer Bank, yes.
And the interest that it generates, does the district get back that interest, or they keep it?
Yeah, no, we do.
You
It's
get it.
allocated amongst the funds.
Okay, thank you. And we've been banking with them for many years?
I'm not too for sure, but for quite a few.
I would say as long as I can remember back. And I'm gonna defer to Ms. Cole a little bit on that one too.
She's the president of the bank?
I think it's been about 8 years. We went through a process. Mr. Tweet might actually remember that. But I think it's been about 8 years that we've been.
Who did they previously bank with?
I want to say it was about 2016, 2017.
I believe we'll go out for RFP at some point.
She's got an answer.
2018.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Well prepared set of slides. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. French, second made by Ms. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it and the motion has carried. Next, we have the partial defeasance and redemption resolution.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the partial defeasance and redemption resolution, and Mr. Sexton can speak to that.
Yeah, so what this resolution will allow us to do is to defease on the 2015 series bond and redeem on the 2013 series. Essentially, it gives us authorization to retire the 2015 series bonds and to redeem the 2013 series, which will allow us to maintain our debt service rate where it's at without having to sell bonds at this time.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
No, sir.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
And I'll second it. All those in favor say aye.
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 The ayes have it and the motion has passed. Next up, we have the resolution of inactive activity accounts.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the resolution of inactive activity accounts. And I'll defer again to Mr. Sexton, but before I do that, I'm going to say thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Thank you. This has been a lot. And there's tons of reasons behind it, but I'm going to let Mr. Sexton tell you.
Yeah, so we have some old unused activity counts at each school. that the funds are just sitting there. What this will allow us to do is to roll those up into a main activity account so we can utilize these funds for the students.
And are they going back to like a same category? Or are they just coming back into a general?
I think it's a more general, is that accurate? Maria?
As long as it stays within the same school and it's in a student activity as their considerations.
Okay. That's okay with me.
It'll basically just allow us to utilize those funds. I mean, they're just sitting there. We're not doing anything with them, so we can get them rolled up and get them in use for the students.
It's a good thing. Money back to the students. Any other questions, comments? Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez, second made by Mr. French. All those in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it, and the motion has passed. Next, we have the private donation to Early College High School, Devon Energy.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the private donation to Early College High School by Devon Energy. Ms. Hall, would you like to speak to that one, please?
President Cheney, Superintendent Luck, members of the board, we had a meeting recently with Devon Energy, with their representative Molly Young, and they're making this donation to our aviation program, our aviation club.
That was
Fantastic.
$5,000?
$5,000.
That's awesome.
That's wonderful. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez, seconded by Mr. French. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. Next up, we have a sponsorship donation to the Goddard High School S&K, or by S&K Properties LLC.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the sponsorship donation to Goddard High School from SNK Properties LLC. And Dr. Cottrell is going to tell us a little bit about his trip that they've got planned and the sponsorship.
Right, the next two are for the sponsorship of our Skills USA students who won the state of New Mexico and are able to go to nationals in Atlanta. So our two, the kids we had up here the other day from our cybersecurity group, myself, one teacher, and the two students are headed to Atlanta so they can compete in the National Skills USA competition. And these two, the next two, are local businesses that supported that opportunity.
Fantastic. It's good to see kids getting to go do a diverse range of things. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez, and I will second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. Next up, we have the sponsorship donation to Goddard High School from the Worrell Investment Corporation.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the sponsorship donation to Goddard High School from the Worrell Investment Corporation.
It's just the second half, the second half of the Skills USA donation by another company.
Fantastic. We will take it. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez. Seconded made by Mr. French. All those in favor say aye.
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 The ayes have it, and the motion has carried.
Good luck,
Very
sir.
much.
Thank you. Next up, we have the sponsorship donation to Pecos Elementary for the Todd Memorial.
I'm gonna wake you up. We're all falling asleep. Here's a video that Jerry Holmes made.
Oh,
about the
okay.
program this
Perfect.
year.
sounds of Motown reverberated off the walls of Pearson Auditorium as the students of Pecos Elementary School sang, danced, and generally rocked the stage while performing for their families and peers. In a performance of high energy, the hard work of the students was evident as they worked their way through the sounds of Motown.
The National Dance Institute started 30 years ago. It was started by Catherine Oppenheimer, who moved from New York City to Santa Fe, and she wanted to have more arts for the kids. So we've been doing it at Pecos for 20 years now. And each year it's a different theme, like this year's Motown, and songs from that era. And the students love it, I love it. It's a high energy program. And what I particularly like is that different students shine in this that may not shine in anything else. Before the show starts, we have 110 students backstage in sourdough positions, and they have to be absolutely quiet and excellent. I love that they teach the students excellence in everything you do, and that carries over to the classroom, so we're very excited about that.
Like from day one and everything, we teach these kids. Keywords are editing excellence. We talk about keywords, work hard, do your best, never give up, be healthy. And these things don't just apply to NDI classes, but we want them to apply to all aspects of life. Something that we find that's hard, we want them to persevere, push through, and not give up. So we spend the first couple of days getting these boundaries set, and then we start progressing that we saw in our beginning of like warming up our bodies, learning how to go back and forth, learning how to warm up of learning choreography, and then we keep progressing to learn how many counts, listening to music, tempo, learning about the stage and the theater, and focusing on a show for that. And it keeps progressing, and you see every single day these kids come back memorizing more and just knowing more. And it's just astounding to see their big smiles on their faces, and they can see this big performance on a beautiful stage and feel that really big sense of accomplishment and pride that they are able to do this whole performance by themselves as well, without any
So every year to help pay for this, we've asked the Todd Memorial Foundation to help us pay for that. But it's such an amazing experience for the students, that's why I do it every year. As you can see, because backstage, when we talk about salaried positions, that's kindergarten and teachers, and they're the worst, to stand in our positions as we're all lined up side by side. I mean, there's a student right beside you waiting to come out to do our runs and jumps and do the whole performance. And so it's so nice, a fun way to teach that excellence, but also memory skills, which our kids have lost through the years because everything's on their phone. So other than the alphabet and the times table, which is forever we can't get through to these kids because they're not used to memorizing, they have to memorize the 8 counts, their dance routine. So, and for the 5th graders who are called the super wonderful, awesome team, SWAT team, they volunteer to come after school to learn their parts. And they have to know exactly when to get, what costume to get, and run backstage and get everything. And they do this all by themselves after they've been trained. So that's why I love it, and I'm very determined to hope we continue it at Pecos because it's a wonderful program. So that's what the money was for.
And you think it's gonna continue?
I sure
You
hope.
don't, okay.
I sure hope.
That's an awesome program.
It is. The kids love it, and they talk about it. And we're hoping to move it to maybe October, because May is nice ending on that high note, but May's very crazy, so many things going on, and just getting a place to have it and everything else. So October looked like on the new calendar, like it had the most place in there, but I haven't heard back from them yet, but we can do it, so.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez, seconded by myself. All those in favor say aye.
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 The ayes have it, and the motion has carried. Thank you. All right, on to some policies, new policies, first readings.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board. Up first, we have policy E1000 ECAA, and it's for armed school security personnel. And I'm going to give you kind of a brief overview of this, and then I'll ask Mr. Harrell to come up, and then I'm going to defer to Ms. Sanchez and Mr. French as members of the policy committee that were there for this. What we're looking for right here with this policy would not be something that would arm our security guards. Let me say that again. I'm not looking to arm our security guards, at least not at this time. I think we're a long ways away from that. But what I do need is I need to have the ability to protect Mr. Harrell as he is put in some pretty nefarious situations as my security liaison. He has been first to the scene of multiple events. He has actively been looking for people that have been armed. He has helped diffuse situations that could have gotten out of hand extremely quick. And legally, I do not have that ability as an agent of the Roswell Independent School District to have him armed. What this policy would do is it would afford us the opportunity for him to be able to carry a weapon and to, continue to do the job that he does, but to keep himself protected. So I'll defer to LJ for a second and then open it up to Ms. Sanchez and Mr. French.
So this is nothing new. It was about 3 years ago, the House Bill 29 was passed. And what it did is it allowed former retired police officers to carry armed onto school premises with your approval, with the school board approval. And this is just in response to what the world is today. With our new systems in place, the Navigate and our teams, I literally am alerted to any alert within the district within seconds. And the majority of the time, I am the first one on scene. As police officers arrive, they usually start from the outer perimeter and start working their way in. So on many occasions, and the principals can attest to it, it's just me and them in the building at that time. We had an incident here just a couple weeks ago where an armed individual was running between 5 of our schools. And we had to put them all into lockdown. And it's just nice to have that armed presence in there. The policy is very strict. This isn't an enforcement position. It states in here that it's to protect students and staff from violent conduct constituting an emergency and to mitigate loss of life during an emergency until law enforcement arrives. This is not to replace school resource officers or anything of that nature. This is a last resort to provide protection until we can get law enforcement there. So there are many, many rules and trainings, and I can show you the 3-inch binder that I have that has all of my trainings. I'm a master firearms instructor in the state, have been for 15 years, been a firearms instructor for 25 years. I teach concealed carry, I teach level 3 security. I mean, this is nothing new. And so I assure you I meet all the criteria for this, and this is a very strict policy in the place that there's not a whole lot of parameters that we're going to leave for this position. As far as from one end to the other, this is a very strict and very limited position as far as being armed.
And I think we made it to where we need to put in place that it's especially
for you, just you, as long as you're with the district. And then, but not that incoming other person if there was another security liaison.
So it
Is that
it would be the security liaison position, would be what we're looking at. And then, as we discussed during the policy meeting, that the criteria in the job description would take care of all of the, it would check all the boxes, or they wouldn't have the ability to do that.
And at this time, we had also stated that the SROs were not going to be armed. This policy doesn't apply to them.
Our SROs, which is our police officers, are armed. It would be our security guards, our school security guards.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. The security, the rest of the security.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what I meant.
And Mr. French?
Yeah, no, I think this is I mean, the policy is pretty black and white. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's easy to read through. It's, you know, and I think obviously LJ more than fits the bill to do that. I think for his own safety and for the safety of our students, it's best that's why we have, you know, we're bringing this up to the board today. And yeah, I'm excited about this.
Well, then, if I may, before we move to a different, because this is just first reading, so there won't be any action taken tonight, but if I could, please, I did get reached out to by council later this afternoon with two amendments, small verbiage, to page 3 of the draft, which would be about the third bullet down, in accordance with board policy, and it lists the policy, and it goes down, and I'm on the third sentence, threatening physical violence or harm towards himself/herself. So I was asked to read that into record, so that we didn't have to try to recreate a policy and not make it in time. So I was asked to read that into record by council. And then the second change would be on page 4 of 6, which will be at the very bottom of additional training requirements. The last bullet point needs to read, all district and state required trainings for employment, which would not impact anything outside of that. This job would have to do just the same thing that all district and state required trainings for employment would be. But council had advised that we get those read into record, please. And we'll get that for reading number 2, so to show those changes.
Okay.
Lots of work on this, and I want to commend Mr. Harrell. We've been 1.5 years on this, and I'm super excited to be able to bring this to the board and hopefully move forward.
Would this be one that we want to share with the rest of the state?
I hope so. I know we did piggyback a lot with Farmington Rio Rancho. I know Carlsbad is looking at this right now. Actually, we split legal fees with this one with Carlsbad. So hopefully it'll be a trend, a good trend for the state.
Absolutely. All right. Next up, we have
thank you.
New policy. Policy B-0200, Board Powers and Responsibilities, first reading.
Yes, sir. Pulling that up right now. So again, first reading, policy services. Kind of just goes back over the responsibilities of the board as laid out by policy services. And I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, the big ones for this one were upon coming on board.
Updated the training.
Yes.
Training hours for first year and subsequent years.
Yes, sir. And I'm down on page 4 of 5. First term shall complete at least 10 hours of mandatory training during the first year. And then 2 hours covering laws and department policies, and it lists them out as to what those need to be. And again, this is the first reading. And again, if, as we're going through the next month, if you have any questions over these going forward, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or to Ms. Trujillo for any kind of clarification on that.
All right. That one looks good. Next up, we have policy B-1400, school board meetings, first reading.
All right, and I think this one will be just a little bit more, it dovetails nicely into what you guys are going to work on for next month, as far as, you know, we're holding our meetings when we hold them, and it lists out, you know, each of the meetings, the regular meeting, the special meeting, what an emergency meeting is, what needs to happen for it to be called. I know it also talks about excuse me, live audio, which we're doing right now with our YouTube channel. And then it also talks about a mechanism that we could have some type of communication. And we're needing some clarification on that. So my hope would be that by the time we're ready to bring this back for a second reading, that we could actually have a better understanding of what real-time communication looks like, as we don't even allow that in a face-to-face board meeting. So still lots of questions with that one. And Ms. Sanchez, I'm going to defer to you and Mr. French. There's quite a bit of discussion on this one.
Well, under regular board meetings, if you can see, it states the second Tuesday of each calendar month. So we'll have to wait till we get the vote and see what day we need to put in there.
Yes, ma'am.
That's probably the only thing. Anything from Mr. French? I think everything else, we pretty much do the 72 hours notification prior to meetings. I think that's being done. I don't think there's a lot of changes except for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. French, any other comments?
No, I mean,
On this one?
like it, yeah, I mean, we're gonna really have to put our heads together on this when it comes to like general comments and from the public and things like that, especially with general comments that are online, and how we're gonna be able to first up come up with a way to be able to see the comments and also be able to filter out any comments that don't need to be read publicly, that don't really pertain to the agenda, and how we're going to do that, and at what time in the meeting we're going to bring those up, or if we're just going to, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's just so much with this new thing going on that they're trying to push. It's just kind of, we're gonna have to put our heads together on this one.
I think that's something that we definitely need to seek further legal guidance on.
Yes, sir.
If we need to,
yeah.
If we need to read those public comments that are made in the online webcast medium version, if we need to read those in during a meeting or the subsequent meeting, that is a question that we need to ask legal counsel if they need to be read at all. My reading is that they don't have to be, but I will definitely seek legal counsel on that question.
Well, and I would imagine, Mr. President, and members of the board, that we're not the only board and superintendent trying to kind of read between the lines to make sure that we're in compliance. I do know that whatever direction the board chooses to go, we'll be ready to make that happen as quickly as possible. I mean, we were already well over halfway there just by having it broadcast already.
Yeah, I think if we do end up having have to read, or I mean, you know, if there's a time to do it, I mean, it's pretty much at the beginning of the meetings when we do have public and general comments anyway, and that's about the only time if we do have to read off public comments from online. watchers, then that's the time to do it. You know, I mean, but again, it can only be partial. It only has to be associated with what's on the agenda. Anything outside of what's on the agenda, I mean, is not up for discussion. So.
Correct, sir.
So under the emergency meetings, are we able to, if the individual with disabilities needs any kind of readers or amplifying or sign language or any other form of auxiliary aid, are we prepared to have all that if it's needed? We are? We have? Okay. So again, for the emergency meetings, it says the documents, public documents, including the agenda, is gonna be provided in different accessible formats? What does that mean? Emergency meetings, under the emergency meetings. Are we there yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at that one real quick.
I think it's on. You're asking about that last paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there it is. Okay, my apologies.
I know it says a qualified sign language interpreter, but I don't see anything on translating from the English to either Spanish or another language. I'm not sure if we have that ability to do all that.
It says we have to be notified.
Yeah, notified.
1 week
Mm-hmm.
ahead of the emergency meeting, or as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
If the district says we can comply with that, and then we do, I think that's.
I'm trying to
good.
think as far as past, and I'm gonna knock on wood just for a second. To the best of my recollection, I can only think of one. And I wasn't privy to that meeting, but I remember when it did take place. But I know we would do everything we could to try to make sure that we had it either, if not translated at that point in time, that we would make our requirements to make sure that it was publicly available. Because I think that from the spirit of everything that I've read about all of these that have come forward, it's transparency and openness. And so we'll do everything we can to make sure that that happens.
I know that several years, I don't know if Mr. Bewley was here, the bilingual department actually had the headphones and the person translating to where only they could hear it for the public that needed that. So I don't know whatever happened to that equipment.
Well, you have to have the equipment is not the big issue. You have to have someone at the back there talking to the microphone. But you have to have an approved translator.
Yes, we actually had one in the district. But I'm wondering, what happened to all that equipment?
Yeah, this was, it's been a few years since we
Yeah.
used it. Before COVID.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna say even further than that. I'm trying to go back to when I first came in as a principal, and I can't think of a meeting that was done like that. Let me look into that. Let me investigate that one.
I'm also wondering if there is not, I don't know if you've seen these on Zooms, where they'll have that little AI assistant that will translate it as you.
We could probably do
in real time.
That's probably more
live
effective.
caption with our YouTube stream could also. So if they pull up the YouTube stream, the live captioning should also be available. I don't know if that can be translated at the same time, but live caption is a feature that's available.
Got it written down. Any other questions?
No.
All right. Moving on to policy B1581, executive sessions. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Again, these are all first readings. And it kind of goes through, I think the new language on this one would be bargaining strategy, preliminary to collective bargaining negotiations between the board and bargaining unit representing the employees of district and collective bargaining sessions. And then that, going down a little bit further, new language would be meeting subject to attorney-client privileges pertaining to pending litigation in which the board may not become a participant. So I believe we've been in compliance with that already, but new language there written in there.
All right. That looks good, straightforward. Move on to the next one,
I think I want to,
or more discussion?
on the regular board meetings, going back to that one, were you present in any of those sessions where they indicated that any communication between board members during the meeting, like through phone, that the newspaper person or any parent or could legally ask to have that information? So that's something we have to be careful with.
Should discourage
Mhm.
communication outside of
Mhm.
our regular meetings, absolutely.
Or even when we have the actual meeting going on, like you have people, if we would have a board member.
We want to remain transparent
speaking
to the
or
public,
having some kind
absolutely.
of contact with the audience or somebody from the outside, those phones they can ask them for that information. So we have to be careful, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. Anything more for executive sessions? Or go to the next one?
On executive sessions, when we're in there, we're not allowed to have notes or take notes. Is that the understanding? Did you understood that at the conference?
I don't think I was in that class. I've heard it said once, but it's not.
My understanding is that those would be discoverable.
Mhm.
That all of that would be something that could be requested.
Okay. So they discouraged us from having a bunch of notes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I won't take any notes.
All right, moving on to policy B1650, notification of board meetings.
All right, going back through this, posting 24 hours public that posted. We have tried, we post our 72 hours, at least 10 days notice, excuse me, should be given for any regular meeting, 3 days for special meeting time and place. Notice should be provided to board members at least 10 days prior to regular meeting, 3 days to specials. All meeting notifications shall include a link or shall otherwise provide information to enable the public to access live audio video. And I believe my understanding from walking in a little bit late the other day was some QR codes, is that we were looking to simplify this and kind of streamline it. We felt like we're in compliance, obviously, but we wanted to, as far as simplifying it, that we could use utilize some QR codes and make it a whole lot simpler and go one button,
I forgot about that one.
and immediately it takes you to the YouTube page and you've got the agendas and you've got everything else at that point.
All right.
Okay.
Already in good compliance with that one. Moving on to policy B1750, BEDBA, agenda preparation and dissemination.
Looking through here real quick, agenda will be posted no less than 72 hours prior to the meeting. Meeting notifications and agendas shall include a link. Again, nothing that we didn't already discuss, where we could actually link our people back to how they can find where they need to go, and just some good business policy right there.
All right. Moving on to policy B-2100, BEDG minutes, first reading.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board. Again, continuation of what we're doing. A copy of the minutes approved at the meeting shall be posted on the district website within 1 week of the meeting's conclusion and shall be publicly available for at least 3 years following the date. One of our hiccups that we had there is that we don't actually approve the minutes of the meeting until the next board meeting. So did we ever get any type of clarification on that, Mrs. Sanchez?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
I thought I was reading our language that we have. I don't know if it is in compliance with the law, the way the law is now mandating this. But it says a draft copy of the minutes will be made available for public inspection within 10 working days. But then a permanent copy shall be kept in superintendent's office. I mean, our policy says should be kept in the superintendent's office. Is that to be replaced with online or in addition to online? And how are we planning to store those?
Exactly.
On the website, a link from the website, or is there a function inside board book that we can utilize to keep the minutes?
Good questions. I'm going to say yes to pretty much all the above.
I'm sure they're all options, yes. I agree.
Look, you asked me a lot of questions that I think they're all yes. No, all kidding aside, I know, again, what we'll probably look at is again, look to work with the Policy Association as far as what they're recommending, because now that this has been recommended policy, and as people start to kind of weed through it and adjust it, I can see people doing the exact same thing that we're doing right now, and saying, okay, so, and does physically mean like, do I have a book? Do I have a filing cabinet? Because it's going to be a filing cabinet if it's 3 years. And so then do we not put it on the website? I would think a link, an all-in-one link at some point would be very feasible, embedded within our website. And hard copies as well. And we've actually used that. There's been a couple times that I've asked Ms. Whitcamp questions, and she's pulled back we started with a video, and then we were able to trace back and to actually pull hard copies of board meetings.
And they must be kept in your office?
I would imagine a copy of it, yes.
Okay. And because it says the citizens can come to your office at any time during regular business hours. I can't see people just coming into your office like that.
Bring a snack.
Well, again, I don't know if those lines are our policy or if that's in the new state statute. That looks like it may be
like
a leftover
old-
from our policy, maybe not necessarily something from policy services.
Where else can they go view those minutes? Where else can they go sit to view them? Is there another place?
To be honest, as crazy as that sounds, I would think that would be where they should be directed to start with.
To you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right. I have no changes there then. Anything else in the minutes, Mr. French?
No, I was just thinking that even if it was, the way I read it was, we signed for it or we approved the minutes, and then just within 10 business days of when we approve it, even if it's the month after, then we post it and keep it for 3 years. That's how I just figured it was that simple. But I guess if it's
That's the way I read it.
a little bit more complex. So I think it's pretty easy.
So if I can, just real quick, my apologies, Mr. Hugh is under the weather tonight. We also have electronic archive capabilities. We do store in the vault, and we previously stored in a designated area of the vault, but we also have electronic copies as well. So like I said, we're ready to pivot to whatever direction we need to go with this.
Fantastic. All right, moving on to policy B2150, public participation at board.
And we've touched on this a little bit already, but beginning July 2024, again, live audio, video webcast, local board meetings shall be accessible through the district website. Check. User interface that allows members of the public to submit written or verbal comments. And that's where we're going to have to get some clarification. So, and again, ready to move in whatever direction they give us.
All right. Pending that, as long as we don't get further directions, we are happy with that one. Next policy.
That's it.
Hold on right quick.
Go ahead.
Is that the same? No, you're fine. I'm sorry. Is that the same one that said that general, like when we do general comments, that people can request agenda items? Is that the same one, or is that the next one we're about to talk about?
I don't see where anyone can request general items.
Oh, okay. Might be the next one we're talking about then. I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just reading through the policy one more time.
I think the one that he's referring to is the one prior, where it had the 10 days.
It's not in this one.
The 10 days prior where they could see a draft agenda. I believe that's the one.
Yeah, I see now. That's what it was. Never mind.
Okay.
We'll move on.
All right. Moving on then. Policy C-0100, superintendent.
All right, just a second. I leapfrogged that one, and I was already on the last one. This would be unique language in this one would go back to it would be language for the board. Notwithstanding the foregoing, the board shall not during any time between the date of regular local election in which school board positions are on the ballots 60 days after the convening of a newly elected board or until 60 days after the local school board has been appointed, either one, extend the superintendent's contract, or two, terminate the superintendent's contract without cause.
Oh, without cause. Okay, we're good. Seems straightforward. Any other comments on that one?
So it says beginning, is that the one where it says beginning in July 2023, the first? We're gonna have the live audio and video webcast?
That would, yes, ma'am. That would be that's gonna be 2150 public participation.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, moving on to our last one of the evening. Policy J-3800, JJAA, student travel, second reading.
So I will say, Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of policy J3800 JJA, student travel. And again, this is in relationship to the distance, moving extended trips from 300 miles to 500 miles from Roswell Independent School District without board approval. So this was one of the things that we had looked at as far as being able to get our kids a little bit further into Texas. Your Lubbock's, your, that's a pretty good piece, almost all the way to Dallas right there, 500 miles. And a big one, and it's highlighted, a financial statement of anticipated expenses for the trip. Special trip dealing with necessary adjustments to proposed budget submitted previous to the Director of Activities and Athletics RISD Board policy to remain in compliance with the New Mexico's Equity Act and Title IX. So, again, we just extended the trip so that we maybe could, I don't want to say forego with some of the formalities, because I like for y'all to be able to see the kids that are doing that. But this would eliminate some of the need for those organizations to come our way just because they're crossing the state line.
That is good. All right, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez,
Second.
second made by Mr. French. All those in favor say aye.
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 The ayes have it and the motion has carried. All right, on to reports.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, emailed a copy of superintendent update last week to everyone. Lots going on. Lots going on here in the summer too. Just trying to kind of tidy up the end of the year. You guys had a large agenda tonight. I want to thank you. I think it's a testimony to the amount of work that's gone on in the district, and we're trying to wrap it up. We've got several people that have taken advantage of some much-earned administrative leave. Got lots going on. We did start our summer school for our elementary schools, and I say school, it's really more of a program. It's 10 days. We've talked a lot about, potential changes with that coming up, but for the here and the now, we've got 10 days. We've got mid-school, summer school. It is going on at Roswell High right now. As far as all 4 of the mid-schools are housed there. Thank you to the mid-school principals that are going over and taking care of that. We're waxing floors and cleaning buildings and just really trying to wrap up. It's funny, in one way you're wrapping up this year, but in another way you already started getting ready for the next year. We had Ms. Cole and I were talking the other day about this weekend and that weekend and et cetera and et cetera. And by the time we were done, we shot the summer. And I was just like, well, that didn't take long to do that right there. And again, I want to come back just real quick if I can. The district calendar, with us with us being mandated to hit our days, the 188 instructional days. And then per calendar committee, the big one for the calendar committee group, all 25 of them, was that week at Thanksgiving. And when you want that full week at Thanksgiving off, it pushed us back into a July early start. If we don't go 2 days, if I take Monday, Tuesday of Thanksgiving and I go back to school, you take our calendar and push it 2 days, we're pretty close to where we've been starting. We may be a day off or something like that. But again, if the goal was to finish by Memorial Day and to have a full week at Thanksgiving, that's what it looks like. So did learn a lot on this one as far as some implications in the business office, as far as working in July and having to run an August 10th paycheck. We learned a lot. So moving into what will be future calendars, I don't project that this one will look like that, but for the here and the now, we're looking forward to it, and got some neat things planned for the start that we'll tell you more about in July.
All right.
Which is the next meeting.
And summer school started today?
For the elementaries, yes,
For
ma'am.
the elementaries?
High schools have been going,
for a
yes,
couple
they've been
weeks.
going. So, and that, I stand for questions on the superintendent's report.
I noticed that you put a little, something about voting or deciding on a site for Mountain View, but that's already been decided.
Yes, ma'am, that's been done. Yep, and that probably was a leftover on that one.
I was just wondering.
My apologies.
I said, oh.
No, and you know what? Design team is already working. That's a done deal. We're moving forward, looking forward to putting up a good building over there. And lots going on with that too.
Nancy Lopez is ready to go?
Working on it. Hopefully getting ready to start doing some work. I know they've cleared a lot of buildings off that land over there, and we will make sure that everybody is ready to go, and we got our shovels whenever we can do that official groundbreaking.
Signed
And,
up and
yeah, and I'm taking mine with me this time.
that's,
My gold shovel's coming back this time.
all right.
And that concludes my report.
All right. Any other board communication, new and unfinished business? I want to encourage everyone to get out and take their trainings, come to conferences. The annual conference in December is,
In Taos?
or the next one's leadership conference.
In Taos.
In Taos. But the one
July.
after that is gonna be we'll have a regional one in Tatum that we can attend. That'll be worth some credit hours. And we'll also have, the annual conference, which will be in December. That I'd like to see a lot of the board attend if we can. For training and for, just to show up.
Yes, sir.
Another thing that I see at the conferences is everyone has some uniforms that they wear occasionally. And they look good, so,
They wear one? I'm sorry.
like, the school board members have a shirt that they can wear.
That's true.
Would we be interested in getting a shirt of some kind for the board?
If we ask the.
100%.
budget guys. What
All
did-
right,
what did he
100,
say?
he said 100%.
Oh, okay. Didn't we have some at one point, white with a purple? I think mine's still in the closet.
I believe so. I can look into that and we can get you guys some prices.
That sounds like, yes, please. So we can bring that before the board.
Okay.
Cause then we can wear it when we're attending sporting events or other events so that the community knows who we are and can reach out. As another way of reaching out.
I don't know.
So that we can show the community that we're for them.
I'm keeping a straight face over here.
That's all I have.
We go
Can
to
I
the-
get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Sanchez, seconded by myself. All those in favor say, oh, and then we're gonna have a roll call.
Jack Cheney,
Yes.
All right.
James Edwards, Gilda Sanchez,
Yes.
Ryan French,
Yes.